The contrasting aunt won't say, "I love you" first. As the aunt who grew up alongside Chen Chen, Xiao Ruoran had a secret: she had always been in love with him. She had been by his side through thick and thin, watching him grow up. It wasn't until a car accident that she finally gathered the courage to confess her feelings. Chen Chen, the once notorious playboy, who had seen the world's grandeur, only realized in the final moments of his life that the wealthy aunt who had cared for him all these years had been in love with him. By his hospital bed, Xiao Ruoran cried her heart out. "You kept saying you wanted the estate in Chuan City, right? How about I transfer it to you? And the villa in Deep City, the courtyard house in Kyoto, the apartment in Magic City. I'll give them all to you." Chapter 1: All the properties are left to my future husband. A speeding Rolls-Royce drove down the hewn highway, heading into the orange-hued dusk. Chen Chen, sitting in the driver's seat, wore a gloomy expression. After over a decade in the business world, he had been betrayed by his ex-girlfriend, who had conspired with her boyfriend against him. The woman, while he was abroad on a business trip, spread rumors about him cheating. She even stooped so low as to provide a miscarriage certificate, claiming it was his child. Yes, she had once been pregnant with his child, but it had been her decision to terminate the pregnancy. What made him feel the coldest was the realization that the pregnancy had been entirely fabricated by her. She had secretly taken the trash bag containing the evidence. Her original plan was to use the child to force him into marriage. But when her university crush suddenly returned to the country, everything started to unravel. Now, the public opinion online was completely one-sided. Recently, there had been too many pure love warriors spreading their narratives, making many fans feel stifled. The sudden appearance of him as their cheating man gave some people an outlet for their frustrations. They spoke of how he had discarded his wife after achieving success, spreading lies that had no basis in truth. Some fans even printed out her miscarriage certificate and gathered outside his company to protest. In just one day, the company's market value plummeted by billions, and many partner companies suffered economic losses as well. Chen Chen's eyes were dazed, his mind wandering as the scenery outside the window passed in a blur. The cool evening breeze seeped through the window, brushing against his face. Though it was summer, he felt a chill in his heart. Beep beep beep. He instinctively glanced toward the passenger seat, where two blinding headlights filled his vision. A speeding truck had collided with his car. With a loud crash, both the car and the driver were sent skidding several meters. Unaware of how much time passed, through his foggy vision, he saw the figure of Aunt Ran. Tears streamed down her face as her anxious expression conveyed her deep concern. Her hands clutched tightly at her clothes, her voice trembling as she called out, "Xiao Chen, wake up." Her voice, hoarse from crying too long, sounded desperate, her eyes bloodshot. To see this woman, who had taken care of him for nearly half his life, in such pain broke his heart. With the last of his strength, he reached out, trying to wipe away her tears. But he couldn't feel his arm. The greatest sorrow in life was showing one's vulnerable side to family. Woo-woo. Chen Chen, you're a big liar. You promised we would spend New Year's together this year. She cried hysterically, her voice breaking, her weak body trembling as she slowly collapsed onto the hospital bed. Liar. Aunt Ran will never speak to you again. A sliver of daylight appeared through the window, but her heart was filled with despair. The doctor's words felt like a sharp needle piercing through her heart. She couldn't bring herself to believe that this was real. Shaking violently, she crawled to the head of the bed, her tear-streaked face pressed against his ear. "Didn't you always say you wanted the estate in Chuan City? Aunt Ran will give it to you today, okay?" When he didn't respond, she was on the verge of fainting, but still refused to give up. She thought he was playing a prank on her. She grabbed his arm, shaking him desperately, and the villa in Deep City, the courtyard house in Kyoto, the apartment in Magic City. "I'll give them all to you, okay?" Chen Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. "My dear Aunt Ran, if only you had this resolve earlier." Back when he was studying, he had begged her for so long, but she never gave him even a simple house. He remembered clearly the time he asked her for the estate in Chuan City. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Aunt Ran, I need some startup capital for my business. How about you give me the Chuan City estate? When I make it big, I'll repay you double." "Hey, you wouldn't even buy me a bucket of instant noodles, and you're talking about repaying me double. Do you think I'm stupid?" Okay, I'll settle for a smaller request. Just give me one of the villas in Deep City. Don't even think about Aunt Ran's properties. They are all reserved for my future husband. Aunt Ran was always stubborn. She would constantly say not to touch her properties. But the truth was, during his business ventures, most of the funds came from her. He had even used her money to flirt with her best friend. What a reversal of roles. Luckily, he had used her name for his business, and the company shares were under her control. That way, even if something happened to him, no one could take that money away. The only regret he had was that he wouldn't be able to see Aunt Ran get married. He was a little uneasy. Aunt Ran was too easy to deceive. He remembered clearly the time one of her friends almost tricked her into going to northern Myanmar for money. Luckily, he found out in time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Xiao Ruoran, whose tears had dried, leaned against Chen Chen's chest in despair, her voice a mixture of memory and regret. Silly boy, the future husband I'm talking about is you. Why can't you understand? If I had been braver, would the outcome have been different? Someone, still partially conscious, froze. What was Aunt Ran saying? She was Mom's best friend. Could the relationship between them really have changed into something else? Damn. Who would have thought the one hiding the deepest feelings for him was the one who had always cared for him, Aunt Ran? But now, it was too late to say anything. The living had to keep living. Aunt Ran. Why did you have to love me? What will you do from here on? He wanted to say something to comfort her, but his consciousness was already fading. The world around him turned dark. Xiao Chen, wake up, please wake up. A gentle voice echoed in his ears, tickling him. He slowly opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw made him jump. Mom. Is this hell or heaven? He asked carefully, his heart racing as he suddenly lunged forward and hugged his mother. In his past life, his mother had died in a car accident while traveling to Chuan City during a storm. The landslide had led to her tragic death. Chen Ruoran tapped him on the head. You little rascal, I told you yesterday to drink less, but you didn't listen. Now look, you had nightmares all night and start spouting nonsense early in the morning. Hearing this, Chen Chen froze for a moment. He carefully looked around. The familiar but strange feeling gave him a headache. After a few seconds, he seemed to remember something and pulled away from his mother's embrace. Looking at her from head to toe, yes, it was his mom. But wait, why did she look so young? She looked like she was in her 30s. He reached out and touched his own face. It was warm, just the right temperature. A bold thought crossed his mind. Could it be that he had been reborn? Chen Ruoran gently stroked her son's head. Stop being upset with Aunt Ran. She only wants what's best for you. She even got sick over your situation. Go take her breakfast now. Chapter 2, If you give me a house, I'll do something serious. After realizing he had been reborn, Chen Chen was in an exceptionally good mood. Since fate had given him a second chance, he was determined not to make the same mistakes again. His mom said he was at odds with Aunt Ran. Upon reflecting on his memories, it was true. This incident had a lot to do with that scumbag, Xiao Shui. She had invited him to a bar for drinks and kept him out all night. Aunt Ran had been frantic and tracked him down through her friends, trying to get him to come home. Xiao Shui refused, insisting he stay. He had drunk quite a bit that night, and his mind wasn't clear. He even said he was a university student now and could have fun outside. Aunt Ran was furious and tried to drag him away. It was already early morning, and the rain was pouring down. They argued in the rain for quite a while, and it was then that Aunt Ran caught a cold. Afterward, feeling embarrassed, he ignored her for several days. Now, looking back, he realized he had been a real jerk. What was so embarrassing about just going home? Carrying the small millet porridge his mother had made, he knocked on Aunt Ran's door. Soon, Aunt Ran, wearing pajamas, opened the door. She was obviously startled when she saw him, and immediately tried to close the door. But he was quick and stuck his foot in the door, pretending to be in pain. Ow, 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 my ankle is broken. Startled, Aunt Ran immediately released the door and crouched down to check his ankle. Are you out of your mind? How could you do something so dangerous? The familiar tone of concern reached his ears again, and though it had a hint of anger, it was still gentle and comforting. His eyes reddened instinctively. If he hadn't been reborn, he would never have had the chance to see Aunt Ran again in this lifetime. With her personality, she would have lived the rest of her life in pain. How does it feel? Is it painful here? Aunt Ran lifted her face, looking anxious and regretful. If only she hadn't closed the door, he wouldn't have hurt his ankle. Seeing her face nearly in tears, Chen Chen bent down and teased her by flicking her smooth nose, chuckling, "Aunt Ran, you're so gullible. I was just pretending. There's nothing wrong with me." At once, Aunt Ran was furious. Not only did he call her by name so casually, but he also accused her of injuring his ankle. How could she take that? She couldn't stand it any longer. Her delicate hand quickly grabbed his ear and twisted it. "You brat! You dare lie to me? Are you asking for a beating?" Sensing the pain, Chen Chen quickly begged for mercy. Aunt Ran finally released his ear, still upset. She sat back on the couch and glared at him. Crossing her arms, she said with a pout, "Why are you here looking for me? Why aren't you with your young girlfriend? She's beautiful, while I'm old and unattractive. I'm not worthy of your attention." She dragged out the last sentence like a dramatic actor. Chen Chen, feeling guilty, leaned against her shoulder with a flattering expression on his face and took her hand. "Aunt Ran, this is a huge misunderstanding. There's nothing between me and her, we're completely innocent." Aunt Ran snorted coldly, not buying it, and pulled away the mask he had put on, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I think I've seen you two kissing before." Chen Chen's face froze, his embarrassment evident. It turned out that Aunt Ran had seen everything. He couldn't argue his way out of this. Luckily, he had thick skin and was able to defend himself, saying, "Yes, we kissed once, but I realized my mistake afterward. Please forgive me for my youthful ignorance, Aunt Ran." "Just once?" Aunt Ran raised an eyebrow and smirked, stepping on his foot with her slipper. "Do you think I don't know anything about you?" Chen Chen's face changed immediately. What else did Aunt Ran know? He understood the principle of admit to a lesser charge and deny the more serious one. Based on what he knew of Aunt Ran, she never made baseless accusations. He hesitated and raised two fingers, saying, "Just twice. I swear, no more than that." On the current timeline, this was the truth, no exaggeration. Aunt Ran shrugged nonchalantly, twirling a spoon in her fingers. Early relationships are not good. Relieved, Chen Chen immediately tried to please her by massaging her shoulders, joking, "Well, I'm an adult now. It's no longer early dating." He said this to gauge Aunt Ran's attitude toward his relationships. As expected, she slammed the spoon down on the table, frowning. Even university relationships count as early relationships. Chen Chen immediately lay down on the couch with a long face, his feet resting on Aunt Ran's soft thighs. "If I don't date in college, I won't be able to find anyone after graduation." Aunt Ran froze for a moment, not understanding his meaning at first. But after a second, she blushed as she caught on, her face turning as red as if it were about to drip water. "You brat, you're still so young but so full of ideas." Thinking about it, she realized that her requirements for him might be a little too strict. She sighed, "Well, college relationships are fine, but I need to meet her first. I'll be the judge." Chen Chen rolled his eyes and said helplessly, "Aunt Ran, are you joking? What kind of girl would meet the family before confirming the relationship?" Aunt Ran was truly a master schemer. If she kept going like this, he'd never be able to find a girlfriend. Even the girl from his university who was madly in love with him would never accept such a ridiculous request. Seeing him refuse such a basic request, Aunt Ran pinched his foot in frustration and then went all in. "If that's the case, then don't bother dating at all. With your standards, HMPH. Immediately, Chen Chen was displeased and said, "I'm studying in Deep City, far from home. Even if I date 10 or 8 girls, you won't be able to see it." "What? 10 or 8? You little scoundrel." Furious, Aunt Ran threw punches at his chest. Still not satisfied, she bit his arm twice. "I have a place in Deep City, and I'll go with you when school starts. But aren't you working now? I don't care about those little things. Then give me a house, and I'll return it to you in my next life." And once again, she gave him a good beating. After she was done, she collapsed on the couch, sighing. "You're going to kill me one of these days, you brat. Always so reckless." Chen Chen had an idea and got up, patted her shoulder, and said expectantly, "Give me a house, and I'll do something serious." Chapter 3, Wait until you get your driver's license, I'll buy you a car. With careful movements, Xiao Ruoran slurped the last bit of kanji from the top of her bowl. The person next to her, who had been ignored, poked her delicate waist with his foot. Xiao Ruoran, give me a response. Hearing her name being called again, Xiao Ruoran's eyebrows shot up. Why do you have to be so annoying first thing in the morning? She gently put down the soup bowl and twisted his leg. The person let out a yelp of pain. Xiao Ruoran pushed him away impatiently. Stop pretending, I didn't even use much force. If you used any force, you'd break my leg, he exaggerated, trying to gain sympathy in hopes of possibly getting a new house. Xiao Ruoran muttered to herself, I'm not giving him anything. As for his unreasonable requests, she could only shake her head helplessly. You have hands and feet, you should learn to support yourself. But Chen Chen, who had taken many wrong turns in his life, wasn't buying it. Having learned that life is full of struggles, he responded, the doctor said I have a weak stomach, so I should eat soft food. Saying that, he leaned his head against her chest and rubbed against her. Xiao Ruoran, being a soft-hearted person, couldn't resist his little act. She wrapped her arms around his neck and gently whispered in his ear, all right, I can't take it anymore. Once you pass your driver's test, I'll buy you a car, okay? Chen Chen slightly raised his head, on the verge of tears from gratitude. Thinking back to his past relationships, he realized they were nothing compared to what Xiao Ruoran was offering. They couldn't even get him to agree to a simple kiss without a bunch of demands. But look at Xiao Ruoran, a simple little act of affection and she's offering to buy him a car. Ruoran, I want your Porsche. Xiao Ruoran gave him a fierce glare, gritting her teeth. I don't have a Porsche, that's my friend's. Then, Chen Chen went back to leaning on her chest and acting coy. Finally, she gave in and agreed to buy him an Audi A8. Chen Chen, satisfied, helped her finish off the rest of the kanji. Although the Audi A8 wasn't as good as her Porsche, it was still a luxury car in China, ranking quite high. After agreeing to the car, Xiao Ruoran slumped on the couch, feeling a bit regretful. If she gave him such an expensive car, would he use it to pick up girls? Knowing his nature, she wouldn't put it past him. Was she digging her own grave? Maybe she should just give him a house instead. After all, real estate couldn't be easily taken to school. But wait, it could still be sold. The properties in Deep City were centrally located, and their price was quite substantial. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she got. She couldn't help but kick him. She crawled onto the bed, wrapped herself in the blanket, and rolled around. This foolish boy was so easy to fool. How could he not be taken in by the sophisticated girls out there? Oh no, she was going to be the culprit who ruined the Chen family's future. Chen Chen, who had no idea what was going on, rubbed his lower back. What was up with her? He was the one who got kicked, and yet she was acting all upset. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he tugged at her blanket. Ruoran, stop being stubborn. Take me to the driving school. Xiao Ruoran, who was buried in the blankets, let out a deep breath and poked her head out. We're still in a cold war. Stop bothering me and get out. Of course, Chen Chen wasn't going to let go of this opportunity for free labor. He pulled the blanket off her, flicked her forehead, and said, you ate the breakfast I brought, which means you've accepted my apology. We're still good friends. Holding her forehead, Xiao Ruoran sat up in shock. That's what you get for being so rude to me, she snapped. Pointing at his nose, she sternly said, when you go out, you have to call me aunt. Okay, Aunt Ruoran. The July weather was scorching, and the difference between the inside and outside of the car was like night and day. The temperature of the asphalt road was so high that it could be felt through the soles of the shoes. The whole place felt like a furnace. Xiao Ruoran, with her hand resting on the car window, smiled teasingly. This brat, insisting on practicing driving in such hot weather, he deserved it. Seeing what was on her mind, Chen Chen opened the driver's side door and, without hesitation, picked her up by the legs and carried her out of the car. Hey. What are you doing? She tried to resist for a moment but was afraid of falling, so she quickly gave in. Chen Chen smiled, feeling pleased with her reluctant yet cute expression. Thinking of leaving him here to roast in the sun was not going to be that easy. What do you think you're doing? Put me down, there are people around. She puffed her cheeks and looked around, worried about what others would think. Chen Chen wasn't planning to put her down anytime soon. After all, she had to face the truth about his family's status. Hold tight to my neck. He walked at a steady pace toward the driving school. It had been a few days since the second driving test, and today, he was going to sign up for the third one. With his previous driving experience, he didn't need to practice much. "Chen, please, let me down." "Oh, you're driving me crazy, but there are other people around. Let me go home and I'll hug you, okay?" "I'm so embarrassed." No matter how she begged, Chen Chen ignored her. Why miss an opportunity to tease her? And the asphalt road was so hot, how could he let his elder walk on it? He thought to himself, "I'm such a good kid." Finally, when they reached the entrance, he reluctantly set her down. Xiao Ruoran puffed up her cheeks and used her sleeve to wipe the sweat from his forehead. She decided that she would ignore him on the way back and not buy him water during his practice. This would be his punishment for not listening. How embarrassing, with so many people watching her being carried by a college student. Entering the driving school, she headed straight for the front desk, pulled out her ID, and said to the receptionist, "I want to sign up for the third test, the earliest available." "The earliest is tomorrow afternoon." "Then sign me up for tomorrow afternoon." Xiao Ruoran tugged at his arm. "You've never practiced before, signing up for tomorrow is too rushed." She turned to the receptionist and said, "Sign him up for a week later." Chen Chen pulled her behind him and covered her mouth. "Aunt, don't listen to her. Sign me up for tomorrow." The receptionist hesitated but kindly advised, "Young man, you've never practiced. You should postpone it a few days. You have plenty of time during the holidays." "Aunt, I'm the king of driving in Autumn Mountain." "No problem. Just sign me up for tomorrow." Xiao Ruoran, frustrated, freed herself from his grip, glaring at him. She pulled his cheek and said, "Since I promised to buy you a car, I won't go back on my word. No need to rush." She thought he was worried she might change her mind, which is why he was in such a hurry to get the license. Honestly, it was infuriating that he didn't trust her. Chapter for a bad guy who only knows how to bully Auntie. Chen Chen put his hands on her shoulders and smiled evilly. "Auntie Ran, let's make a bet. If I can pass tomorrow, you can lend me the Land Rover outside to drive for a few days. If I can't pass, I will help you wash clothes for a holiday." Xiao Ruoran glanced at him with contempt and nodded slightly. "Since you want to help Auntie wash clothes so much, Auntie will fulfill your wish." She practiced for 5 days when she took the Subject 3 test. She didn't believe that this kid could pass without practicing once. Remembering that a few nights ago, he insisted on practicing with his own car. As a result, he hit the curb when starting. A novice who can't even start steadily can't pass the Subject 3 at all. After registering, he rushed back home. He turned on the computer and quickly brushed the questions of Subject 4, intending to pass Subject 4 after passing Subject 3. Then he would take the Land Rover for a ride. At night, Xiao Ruoran came back from buying vegetables. Looking at someone who came out of the shower with bare shoulders, her pretty face blushed slightly. Put the dishes in her hand in the kitchen and go to the balcony to get his shirt. "Smelly boy, the air conditioner is on, put on your clothes quickly, don't catch a cold." Chen Chen put on his clothes helplessly and scratched her nose. "Why are you as nagging as my mother?" Grabbed his hand and pinched it in revenge, and said fiercely, "No respect, Auntie is doing this for your own good." Chen Chen pressed her on the sofa and ran to the back to give her a massage. He, Auntie Ran is right. "It's so late, why hasn't my mother come back yet? Maybe it's the shadow of the previous life, my heart is pounding, and I can't help asking, Auntie Ran, isn't my mother coming back to eat tonight?" One of Sister Rome's partners invited her to dinner, and she was embarrassed to refuse, so she agreed to go. Chen Chen fell into deep thought. Partner. A person suddenly appeared in his mind, and his face suddenly became a little gloomy. Is that partner surnamed Xiao? Xiao Ruoran shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. She was not the kind of career-oriented woman, and had no interest in business matters. Her parents also knew this, so before they died, they exchanged most of their assets for real estate and cash and handed them over to her. "Don't worry, Sister Rome will come back after dinner, and Auntie will make you delicious food." Leaning on the sofa, Chen Chen's eyes became deeper. It was her father who instigated Xiao Shui to approach her, with the purpose of getting closer to her mother. On the one hand, it was for business cooperation, and on the other hand, My mother and Aunt Ran didn't know Xiao Shui, but Xiao's father knew me. It seemed that the plan had been in place for a long time. After dinner, Xiao Ruoran and Chen Chen sat on the sofa and watched TV. The two absent-minded people leaned against each other's shoulders, and their expressions were very scattered. After a while, Xiao Ruoran, who was really bored, took Chen Chen to her home to play games. Looking at the familiar game panel, his mood recovered a little. As a former 10-year veteran and genius boy, he soon killed people on the transport ship, shooting heads with every shot, as strong as hanging on the wall. With a smile on his face, Xiao Ruoran sat quietly on the side and watched Chen Chen, who was full of vigor at the moment. Took a can from the cabinet and fed him with his own hands. After a while, he will go to college and meet all kinds of girls. There should be one that makes his heart beat. After all, this stinky boy is so fickle, he will definitely not be honest. Maybe the next time they meet, he will discuss his dream lover with her with a smile on his face. Sensing her low mood, Chen Chen, with a peach in his mouth, put his big eyes close to her pretty face. He looked around and finally concluded, "Auntie Ran, are you reluctant to buy me a car?" Xiao Ruoran was directly angered by his words and twisted his arm hard. "What is there for Auntie to be reluctant about? It's just a broken car. I'll send it to you in Shenzhen when school starts." Bad boy, no conscience at all, actually looked at Auntie like this. He stretched out his fingertips and rubbed her warm cheek, which was soft and felt great. It felt better than the canned food in his hand, and he couldn't help but pinch it, which was bouncy. Feeling that the majesty of the elders was challenged, Xiao Ruoran reached out to fight back. Pinching his cheeks with both hands, pulling back and forth, trying to pull out a heart shape. Someone was tortured so much that he quickly let go and begged for mercy, picked up the remaining canned food and began to feed Xiao Ruoran. "Don't you like playing games? Why do you always go out during this period? It's so hot outside." Listening to her words that were not meant for wine, Chen Chen lowered his head and smiled. The computer in his room was old and could not run games, so he often came to Aunt Ran's house to play games. Recently, Xiao Shui often invited him out, so he didn't visit Aunt Ran's house much, and she was a little unhappy. "I can't help it. Many girls have invited me to go out recently, and it's hard to refuse." Hearing his shameless words, Xiao Ruoran bit his hand angrily. But he didn't want to bite too hard, leaving only a shallow tooth mark. "Xiao Ruoran, you are a dog, you bite people at every turn." She widened her eyes in disbelief and raised her little hand high. "Dog, if you have the guts, say it again." Someone took advantage of her unpreparedness and scratched her smooth armpit. Quickly rushed out of the room, leaving Xiao Ruoran with a blank look on his face and loosening his arm. After a long time, she could still feel the itchy feeling under her arm. Looking at the closed door and the disappearing figure, she bit her lip, took off her clothes, and pulled the summer quilt beside her to wrap herself tightly. Her falling hair covered her side face, and her eyes were misty, just like a bullied young wife. "Bad guy, you only know how to bully your aunt, little bastard. If you have the ability, you will bully your aunt for the rest of your life." After returning home, Chen Chen paced back and forth in the living room, sorting out his memories of Xiao Shui and Xiao's father. About an hour later, Chen Yuerong opened the door with some desserts, and saw Chen Chen in the living room with a doting smile on her face. "Xiao Chen, you haven't slept yet, just in time, Mom brought you desserts, try it." Looking at his charming mother, the tense expression on his face relaxed a little, took the package, opened it and tasted it twice, and gave a thumbs up, indicating that it was delicious. After being polite, he sat on the sofa next to his mother and sniffed slightly. "Have you drunk?" Looking at her son, who was different from usual, she gently stroked his slightly messy hair. "You must drink when you go out to eat, but not much, just half a cup. Half a cup is not a small amount. Then I won't drink in the future, I promise." After chatting for a while, Chen Chen started to get to the point. He asked seriously, "Mom, is the partner who will have dinner with you tonight surnamed Xiao?" "Yes, how do you know? What is your relationship with him?" As a successful businessman, she could naturally feel the change in her son's tone. A trace of panic flashed across her face, and she hurriedly explained, "Mom and him are just business partners, there is no other relationship." Chapter 5: The second ex-girlfriend, Xiao Shui. Words can deceive people, but eyes can't. Mother and son are connected by heart. Chen Chen can tell whether his mother is fooling him or not. Combined with the memory of the previous life, he can be completely sure that his mother has no other feelings for the divorced old man. Ha! His tense body completely relaxed, and he pulled at his half-wet shirt. If his mother really likes the guy, he will chop him up with a kitchen knife tonight. Although the guy looks harmless and has the image of a good old man, he has done a lot of illegal things behind the scenes. reselling bad books and building bad websites. He made a lot of colored red bills and was later arrested by the police. Chen Ruoran was also scared out of her wits. If she had known that her son would think too much, she would never go out to eat. To her, her son is more important than her own life. It's just a business project, there is no comparison. She grasped Chen Chen's arm with her trembling hands, and said in a crying voice, "Xiao Chen, Mom won't go out to eat anymore, okay? Don't think too much." She knew her son's temper, which was very similar to her own when she was young, stubborn and hard. Things that have been determined are hard to change, and coupled with the impact of the broken family over the years, his temper is even more stubborn. If this incident affects their mother-son relationship, she has nowhere to cry. Seeing his mother with red eyes, he hurried forward to hug her. "Don't cry, I want to cry when you cry, I'm just worried that you will be fooled by those people with ulterior motives outside, after all, my mother is so beautiful." Chen Chen, who knew his own temper in the past, wanted to slap himself twice. Because his temper was very bad in those years, his mother paid special attention to his emotions. If there is a slight change, he will be very panic, and he is her weakness. Chen Ruoran wiped her tears and hummed, "You little brat, you only know how to please mom, you're old and ugly. What are you talking about? Women are in their prime at 41, and you are still in your prime. You little brat, mom doesn't ask for prime time, I just ask for our family harmony and your health and safety." Then she held Chen Chen's little face and said seriously, "Mom will never remarry in this life, and I will only have you as my child." Chen Chen smiled bitterly. The fun was a bit too much, so she said, "Mom, I never opposed your remarriage, I just want to check it out." "What remarriage?" "Remarriage, Mom is not interested in getting married, I just want to stay by your side." This sentence almost broke someone's defense, but fortunately she reacted quickly enough and stopped crying in time. The next afternoon, Chen Chen took a taxi outside the community and went to the test site for Subject 3. When he arrived at the place, he shook the palm leaf fan in his hand. He walked slowly under the scorching sun with his eyes darkened. He was still muttering to himself, if he had known the weather would be so hot, he would have brought an umbrella. This damn place of the examination hall didn't even have an air conditioner. After submitting his ID card with a curse, he found a random place to sit down and waited for the lottery. "Chen Chen, are you here to take the third subject as well?" A familiar voice came from behind him. He turned around and looked, and it was even darker in front of him. The already hot mood became like a stove, with sparks flying everywhere. The person who came was none other than his second girlfriend Xiao Shui. If it hadn't been for her in the previous life, he might have been able to avoid the car accident. The delicate oval face was slightly bent, a few strands of hair hung on the cheeks, and the corners of the mouth contained a faint sweetness. This look is simply a killer for young people who have just become adults. "Didn't you just take the second subject some time ago?" According to the time calculation, you should not have practiced the third subject yet. There is a rule in their driving school that you can practice after registering for the third subject. According to the time calculation, it has only been 7 days since the last test of Subject 2, and it was only yesterday that I could register for Subject 3. A friend of the opposite sex who was following Xiao Shui seemed to have thought of something, and couldn't help but said in a strange voice, "Some time ago, you just started driving and hit the curb. You should practice Subject 3 before taking the test." "Yes, there is still a long vacation time, so there is no need to rush," Xiao Shui also echoed. Chen Chen continued to fan himself with a palm leaf fan, leaning back. The perfume on someone was too strong, which was not good for the nose. But Xiao Shui didn't know what to do. She sat down next to him and handed him the half-drunk mineral water in her hand. "The weather is too hot, drink some water." This move made the buddy who just spoke up jealous. The sweat on his forehead emerged layer by layer like bamboo shoots after rain. The water that the goddess drank was a delicacy, why should it be given to this boy? Unfortunately, Chen Chen didn't like the bottle mouth that others had blown, and politely refused. The body continued to lean to the other side. The smell of perfume is not as good as the light milky scent of Aunt Ran, which is too irritating to the nose. Xiao Shui did not notice anything unusual and continued, "After I finish the third subject, we will go to the bar to have fun together in the evening. The drinks at the bar last time are really good." After listening to her mumbling a lot, Chen Chen rubbed his eyes sleepily. He has no good feelings for this woman now. A slut who was kicked by him really thinks he can't live without her. Xiao Chen, how are you? She said coquettishly to Chen Chen, and her arm was directly around his arm. The buddy next to him almost popped his eyes out. What kind of script is this? Didn't the goddess break up with him? How can they still be so close? Little did she know that breaking up was the script she wanted to play. The purpose is also very simple, wanting to hold Chen Chen's heart tightly. But what she didn't know is that Chen Chen is not a love-brained person. What's more, he is a super invincible upgraded version of Chen Chen who has experienced 2 lives. As for getting back together with her in the last life, it was just because he thought that the two of them were on a more suitable path. After recognizing her character, he also made a prompt decision and broke up directly. But he didn't expect that she was even more ruthless and played a trick on him. Candidate number 31, get ready. When the broadcast sounded, Xiao Shui winked at him and pouted. If there were no outsiders here, they would probably have gone up to give him a smack. It must be said that at this age, Xiao Shui is still very good at fishing. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a bunch of licking dogs around him, such as the one who was still standing aside staring blankly. Chen Chen felt a little sorry for this little brother whose name he didn't know, and waved to him. Why are you standing? Sit down. The sudden invitation made him a little overwhelmed. Today's script performance obviously exceeded his cognition. I wanted to humiliate her ex-boyfriend in front of the goddess, but I didn't expect to eat a wave of dog food. Putting down the palm leaf fan in his hand, he asked curiously, do you like Xiao Shui? He nodded instinctively at first, and then shook his head frantically. What a joke, that's his white moonlight. She's beautiful and kind, and has a rich family, so she definitely doesn't like him. Chen Chen shook his head slightly, licking a dog, licking in the end, nothing. Now he really wants to tell this brother that Xiao Shui's splits are still very powerful. Chapter 6. Come to the bar tonight to find me, I'll give you a reward. After taking the 3rd test, Chen Chen immediately took the 4th test. The test went smoothly and he got his driver's license quickly. As for the 2 big internship signs, I wanted to throw them away but didn't. It's better to take them home to prevent being labeled. After finishing everything, he walked home with an arrogant step to find Aunt Ran to get the car keys. But Chen Yaojin showed up halfway. Xiao Shui was panting with sweat all over her head, her front was half wet, and her black and red lace clothes were faintly visible. Why don't you wait for me? She stepped forward and held Chen Chen's shoulders, breathing heavily, and I really didn't know whether it was intentional or intentional. Chen Chen, who was calm in his heart, was not affected at all, but just said casually, something happened at home, I'm quite anxious. Then I'll take you and pick you up in the evening. Her nails touched his neck intentionally or unintentionally. The other hand was also on his shoulder. She was wearing short jeans today. The smooth and slender long legs reflected the sun's light, bright and dazzling. He avoided her touch and took a taxi from the roadside. I'm busy these days, let's talk about it later. After saying that, he was about to get in the car, but was pulled by Xiao Shui. She pulled Chen Chen to the corner of an alley and pushed him against the wall with both hands. The delicate face came up, and the strong smell of perfume filled his nose. Are you angry with me? Zhang Yu and I are not familiar with each other. We just met by chance when we were taking the 3rd subject test. There is nothing between us. He sympathized with the little brother named Zhang Yu again. You put the goddess in your palm, but the goddess killed you and hurt your heart. Stupid, how could I put someone else in my heart? Come to the bar tonight to find me and give you a reward. She pretended to be shy, showed a standard smile, and then ran away immediately. Looking at the back figure going away, Chen Chen's mouth twitched. He admired himself a little. He could resist this level. It can only be said that Thai pants are hot. At night, Chen Chen, who bought barbecue from the street, returned home. Pushing the door in, he saw Aunt Ran drunk on the sofa. Walked forward slowly and put the barbecue on the table. He turned his head slightly and found that Aunt Ran was staring at him angrily. Where did you go to fool around again? You smell like sweat. Chen Chen didn't care about his wet clothes and sat on the sofa. He moved his position and leaned on her. Just say that Aunt Ran's milky fragrance is very nice, and my nose doesn't dislike it at all. Xiao Ruoran didn't push him away, but just stared at him with a face full of resentment. Coming back so late, there must be something bad. He also packed barbecue, he must have gone out to drink with some girl. Speak. Looking at Aunt Ran with her teeth bared, he couldn't help laughing and deliberately said, What are you talking about? Don't you smell like alcohol yourself? As he said that, he stretched out his hand to pinch her rosy cheeks, which were soft and so funny. Opening his dirty hands, Xiao Ruoran explained aggrievedly, I drank because my best friend came back, and I drank at home, not fooling around. Unlike you. She stretched out her jade hand to twist his ear, pretending to rotate it gently, for fear of really hurting him. Chen Chen pinched his nose pretentiously, you smell of alcohol, and you still have the nerve to say that to me. Besides, I was with friends, and I wasn't fooling around. What she said was right, her friends were friends, and her friends were definitely friends, and it made sense logically. Then why did you come back so late? Xiao Ruoran was a little furious at his sophistry, and her voice became louder. Seeing that she was really a little angry, he immediately threw himself into her arms and rubbed her hard. I went to take the third and fourth subjects, and you didn't know that, you didn't care about me at all, and you yelled at me, woo woo woo. Xiao Ruoran, who reacted, was stunned there. Thinking of yesterday's registration at the driving school, her face became even more rosy, as if she had really wronged him. But he was not wrong, and he didn't tell her that he came back so late. In fact, Chen Chen could have come back during the day. It's just that he had just been reborn and was a little uncomfortable with the environment. He took a taxi for 2 laps and bought barbecue by the way. She was at a loss and put her hand on Chen Chen's head, letting him mess around in her arms. I'm sorry, Auntie forgot about this. Chen Chen, who always refused to give in, pinched her long black silk legs, feeling very depressed. HMPH, you don't care about me at all, the relationship has faded, I understand, I'll leave right away. He was about to get up and leave. Seeing this, the panicked Xiao Ruoran didn't care about the so-called face, and immediately hugged him to prevent him from leaving. The heavy feeling made someone smile as he wished. But he had his back to Xiao Ruoran, and she couldn't see her expression at all. Let go. Out of sight, out of mind. I will leave your sight immediately and will never disturb you from caring about others. She said it with great righteousness, with the momentum of a hero cutting off his own arm. This made Xiao Ruoran very anxious. It was just a small matter. There was no need to be so decisive. It was impossible for him to care about others. He said this as if he had someone else outside. She was innocent. She had not had a friend of the opposite sex outside for these years. She lowered her eyes and pouted, mumbling. She had obviously taken the initiative, so how could she lose? Hey, Xiao Ruoran, why are you still swearing? It was obviously you who wronged me. Chen Chen turned around and said unhappily. He had heard a lot of negative words in her muttering just now. Xiao Ruoran, who was embarrassed, punched him softly. He pressed his forehead against his nose and rubbed it back and forth slightly to show that he was wrong. Master Chen Chen, who knew her temper, was generous and said he would let her go this time. The two sat back on the sofa, and he unwrapped the bag. Took out the skewers sprinkled with dipping sauce and put them against her mouth. She tentatively stretched out the pink and fragrant cloves and licked them lightly twice. Yes, it was the taste she liked. Opened her mouth and held the skewers. You little brat, you have some conscience and know what Aunt Ran likes to eat, but I don't know how many times he can feed you like this. Xiao Ruoran is such a sentimental woman. As long as it involves Chen Chen, she is extremely sensitive and easily overthinks. She is also very persistent, otherwise she would not have been single and always accompanied Chen Chen. Seeing that she was full, Chen Chen swept away the remaining barbecue. He leaned on her with his bulging belly. This is a humble room, but my virtue is fragrant. Aunt Ran, how many kinds of stockings do you have? He stretched out his hand and scratched her legs. The tight stockings have a rustling touch. At the same time, they are silky and smooth. From a sensory point of view, the material is excellent. Offended, Xiao Ruoran blushed and scratched the sofa, her nails were sunken into the fabric. It's none of your business how many kinds of stockings Auntie has, I'm not wearing them for you to see. Chapter 7 What's the difference between us in this relationship? Oh. Xiao Ruoran, who couldn't stand his antics, pushed him to take a shower. Go quickly, you're all sweaty and stinky. Chen Chen pretended to be pitiful. Aunt Ran, you dislike me. Xiao Ruoran raised his head and wanted to cry but had no tears. Even if Aunt Ran dislikes me, she won't dislike you, but you're too funny. In just a few minutes, the stockings were wrinkled. If I let you play with it for a while longer, it will be torn. Chen Chen, who knew when to stop, finally greased it. He ran to the bathroom to take a shower with satisfaction. Aunt Ran's indulgence in him was much higher than he thought. It seemed that he could do more, at least to change her mind about their relationship. Otherwise, she would always treat him as a child, which was too awkward. Xiao Ruoran, sitting on the sofa, looked at the direction of the bathroom with complicated eyes. The sound of running water made her heart restless. I don't know if it's because he's about to leave the city, but her heart has become more and more sensitive recently. Even her behavior has become helpless. She even indulges him to rub her legs and face at will. I really owe this stinky boy in my previous life. Let him be, he will leave me anyway. Chen Chen, who just came out of the shower, bumped into Xiao Ruoran, who was holding a shirt. He reached out to take the shirt and put it on, and casually put his arm on her shoulder. Auntie Ran is so good to me. You are so sweet, you must have deceived many girls. That's true, many people are lining up to lean on me. Just brag. She didn't believe Chen Chen's big talk at all. Chen Chen sent her back to the room and winked at her. He pointed his finger at the car keys on the table beside her bed. He put his driver's license on the table before taking a shower, and Auntie Ran must have seen it. Xiao Ruoran, who understood what he meant, didn't believe it. But the reality was in front of her, and she couldn't break her promise to him no matter how unwilling she was in her heart. She climbed onto the bed impatiently and threw the Land Rover car keys to him. Take it and get out of here. You just bother Auntie every day. Chen Chen, who had gotten the benefits, smiled like a husky and immediately acted like a filial son. Pull the summer quilt over to wrap Auntie Ran up. Knowing that Auntie Ran likes to sleep in, she even helped to close the curtains. Xiao Ruoran hid in the quilt, only showing her little head, and hooked her finger at him. Come here. Someone ran over with a chuckle, knelt on the bed, leaned over to her ear. Drive safely, don't drive to crowded places. If something happens to you, Sister Rome will kill me. Chen Chen didn't take her advice seriously. He is the driving god of Akina Mountain, how could he get into trouble? The car accident in the previous life was an accident, which can be ignored. Seeing his casual face, Xiao Ruoran was furious. It turned out that all her words were in vain, and she didn't care at all. But thinking of his driving skills that could hit the curb when starting, I was still worried. Drive out and call Auntie, Auntie will go with you. Only my girlfriend can sit in the front passenger seat, you. As a result, he was slapped. Xiao Ruoran stood up and said angrily, that's my car. Why is his words so irritating? Only his girlfriend can sit in the front passenger seat, and only his girlfriend can sit in the front passenger seat of his own car? Someone was still hesitating on the edge of death. What's yours is mine, what's the difference between us? We are so distant, aren't we? This shameless remark really made Xiao Ruoran laugh, and pointed to the direction of the door. Get out. Do you have to be so heartless? Am I wrong? Xiao Ruoran, who was so angry in front of him, so that he dared to question whether he was wrong, and gritted his teeth and said, that belongs to my future man, and it has nothing to do with you. Chen Chen touched his head embarrassedly and said shyly, you won't be able to find a boyfriend in the future with your temper, so why don't you transfer it to me, and then I will take care of you in your old age, and I will never leave you for the rest of my life. Cough cough cough. Xiao Ruoran, who was choking himself with anger, pounced on him like a hungry wolf. The result was that he missed and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, he was caught by Chen Chen, which avoided a crisis. So Chen Chen added fuel to the fire and said, look, when you fell, there was no man to help you except me. Xiao Ruoran, who was completely broken, kicked Chen Chen frantically, trying to vent her dissatisfaction. Chen Chen did not hide, sitting on the bed and letting him vent. The strength of her little feet was not small, kicking him several times. This stinky boy is too bullying, he simply doesn't treat her as a human being. Xiao Ruoran, with a face full of anger, continued to output to him like a tireless machine. As her strength became weaker and weaker, Chen Chen held her nimble feet. Through the black silk wrapping, you can also see the round toes, white and tender. Xiao Chen. You are too much. Chen Chen ignored it and continued to play with the little feet in his hand. Xiao Ruoran wanted to pull it out, but the strength of the two was not at the same level, and he couldn't pull it out at all. He turned his head and looked at her with a smile. When you find a boyfriend, I won't bully you anymore. A sentence that hit her right in the heart was like a bullet. The pain and the feeling of suffocation lingered in her heart. Her expression became visibly flustered. I don't like men, So I don't want to find a boyfriend. Then you like women? Yes, I like women. She wanted to cover up the truth and whispered, times are progressing. Chen Chen interrupted her, shook his head slightly and sighed, in that case, I will inherit your property in the future. Xiao Ruoran, who understood what he meant, kicked his other foot in his face, don't think about it. That's for my future man. Her contradictory words embarrassed herself. If she likes women, where will the future man come from? When in doubt, hide in the quilt. Pull the summer cool quilt over your face and pretend to be dead. This kind of thing should be done step by step. To deal with a more traditional woman like Aunt Ran, you have to keep a steady pace and not think about going all out. Chen Chen, who understood this, put down her feet and walked out of the room. After a long time, when the surroundings were completely silent, Xiao Ruoran dared to slowly pull off the summer quilt and glanced at the door with puffed cheeks. The tightly closed door made her breathe a sigh of relief. Xiao Chen has grown up and is getting worse and worse. He has begun to think about her property. Humph, how can a young man think about living off others? But if he really doesn't want to work hard, I will definitely support him. After all, I am his aunt. This identity of the two is very embarrassing. I am obviously not much older than him. But who made her parents give birth to her too late, causing her and Sister Roan to become the same generation? And Sister Roan has always treated her as her own sister. Chapter 8 Mom, can you transfer all the company's shares to me? The next day, Chen Chen picked up his phone and looked at the missed calls and messages on the screen in confusion, wondering if it was from Aunt Ran. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, after seeing the caller notes, he threw it on the bed. From Xiao Shui. Xiao Chen, do you have time today? Chen Yuerong, who had prepared breakfast, seemed to be waiting for Chen Chen to wake up. After wiping his face with a towel, Chen Chen walked out of the bathroom and sat at the dining table, looking at his mother. I have time, what's wrong? She peeled an egg and put it in his hand, smiling and said, we have to finalize a project at noon today, so you can accompany Mom to a dinner party. Chen Chen in the car propped up his chin and looked around the scenery on the roadside. Dongcheng is located in the northern hilly area, and the city is located in the center of low mountains and hills. Looking up, there are green belts one after another. In the middle, there are also colorful patches, either wild flowers and trees or cultivated economic crops. Dongcheng North District is where Chen Yuerong's company is located. Because Chen Chen was born here, he chose to locate the company here. In addition, there were a lot of vacant land here in the past few years, which not only relieved the economic pressure, but also rented a large amount of land for planting at a low price. Looking at the few high-rise buildings in Dongcheng, Chen Chen couldn't help but feel a little proud. This is the world built by his mother. Later, he was able to become a giant, which was inseparable from this former foundation. It's just that the head office was moved to Kyoto later, and the mainstream business was changed to the internet. There is no way the physical industry in the future is struggling. And the internet industry is developing in full swing. Facts have proved that he did make a lot of money. Damn it, it seems that he is destined to be a gigolo. The first half of his life was spent on Aunt Ran, and the second half of his life was spent on his mother. In short, he doesn't want to take a DT at all. Life is not a novel, and most people are just ordinary people throughout their lives. It is impossible to make a person successful with passion and courage. Hard work is only the most basic thing, luck and opportunity are the foundation. The huge agricultural market is bustling with people. Fruits and vegetables are transported to the large express delivery station in the northern district of Dongcheng, and then to the whole country. His mother's main business is to resell agricultural and sideline products. As for side businesses, there are also many. For example, the physical publishing industry that she wants to finalize with the surname Xiao. Boss, this is your son, what a handsome boy. Your son is so tall, it feels like he is about the same age as my daughter. Young man, are you in love? The employees who are more familiar with Chen Yuerong greeted Xiao Chen enthusiastically. Most of them have seen Chen Chen. Chen Yuerong also greeted everyone with a smile. Although she is the big boss of the company, she herself is not arrogant and can chat with everyone. She was naturally very happy to hear everyone praising her baby son. After all, such scenes of loving mother and filial son are rare. In the past, this kid was too lazy to go out with him. Aunt Ling, your daughter and I are good friends. She is really beautiful, har har har. Chen Chen is different now. He is not an old-timer, but a slippery loach. And she has a very good relationship with Yu Chen Chen, the daughter of Aunt Yu. When I was chasing my first love, she helped me a lot. To put it bluntly, if I marry my first love later, Yu Chen Chen must sit at the main table. If I remember correctly, the first love letter he received was written by Yu Chen Chen to him. It was a long time ago, and it can be traced back to junior high school. At that time, the feelings were just beginning to open up, and they were not very good at hiding their emotions. Because of this, he controlled Yu Chen Chen for a long time. Later, the two of them became brothers naturally. Finally, Yu Chen Chen also became his capable secretary. It was just a very pure secretary, without any other meaning. Aunt Ling obviously knew that the two were good friends, and she smiled, "Come to my house when you have time. The girl has been talking about you every day these days." Chen Chen thought, how could she not talk about him? He had cheated her of her New Year's money and owed her for half a year. After saying hello, he followed his mother to the office. Seeing a table full of documents, he suddenly felt a headache. This is when the importance of a secretary is revealed. Otherwise, reading every word can make people tired to death. "Mom, do you have to read all these documents by yourself?" Chen Ruoran, who came back from washing a handful of red dates, tapped his forehead lovingly. "My son has really changed. He had never called me so kind before, at least not so stiff." "Of course, you must do it yourself to better understand the business." Chen Chen's admiration for his mother rose to a higher level. No wonder he could make the company the forefront of the industry, it was all hard work. Then I can only be regarded as a son who inherits my mother's business and adds bricks and tiles to the existing foundation. If it weren't for my mother's preparation and Aunt Ran's help, I really wouldn't be able to succeed. He couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief and said with emotion, "When I think about inheriting such a big family business in the future, my head hurts." He even stroked his forehead in a pretentious manner. Chen Ruoran laughed at this. When did this kid become so lively in front of her? However, she had to give him a good beating, so she said, "I think it's better to let Ruoran take care of the business. I'm afraid you will squander it all." Chen Chen rolled his eyes at his mother speechlessly. First, Aunt Ran is not short of money. Second, her business ability is not as good as mine. She is also very lazy. Third, I am your biological son. How can you be so selfish? Chen Ruoran stuffed a sweet date into his mouth and pinched his cheek. "Ruoran is not an outsider. Your mother can't get to where she is today without the help of her parents. Her parents entrusted her to me before they passed away. After all these years of getting along, I have already regarded her as my own sister. Also, my son is much more lazy than Ruoran. He wants to be fed by her even when he eats." Chen Chen blushed and explained twistedly, "It was Aunt Ran who insisted on feeding me, not me." Chen Ruoran smiled slightly and put all the sweet dates in her hand into his hand. He sat down at the desk and started processing documents. "Wash any fruit you want to eat. Wait for Mom to finish these documents first." After what happened in the last life, Chen Chen began to be filial again. Walked to his mother, stuffed a sweet date into her mouth, and said with a smile, "Mom, I'm a college student. How about this? You transfer all the company shares to me. I'll help you find someone to manage it. You can just enjoy your old age." Chen Ruoran was stunned. For a moment, her mind didn't come back to her. Is this kid forcing her to abdicate? At such a young age, he asked for all the shares in her hands. He also asked her to retire and return home. The stinky boy is still as rebellious as before. Finally, he rolled his eyes at him. "Go play somewhere else. Your mother can still do it now. If the company is handed over to this kid now, it will go bankrupt in a short time, and it may even be heavily in debt." Chapter 9. It turns out that Mr. Xiao's daughter and my son are friends. Near noon, Chen Chen followed his mother to the restaurant that had been booked in advance. It was a local specialty restaurant in Dongcheng. Chen Chen sneered in his heart and stuffed a piece of mint-flavored chewing gum into his mouth. He chewed hard to calm down the mood of wanting to kill Xiao Shui's father. That old dog investigated very clearly. Knowing that my mother doesn't like to eat in restaurants, he specially picked such a place. Sichuan restaurant, he has a lot of thoughts, but unfortunately he made a wrong calculation. Mom, the old guy surnamed Xiao also knows that you like to eat Sichuan food. Chen Yuerong was a little embarrassed and explained, he often goes to the vegetable market. Some employees there should have told him. Har har, he is very arrogant. Mom swears that there is absolutely no relationship with him beyond business cooperation. He naturally believed his mother and took the initiative to hook his mother's arm. Chen Yuerong also liked her son's intimacy with her, and she leaned towards him consciously. The son has grown up and wants to be the head of the family, so as a mother, she naturally has to flatter him. The two of them came to the private room arm in arm. Xiao Ruoran had been waiting for a long time with his people. When he saw the visitor, he immediately stood up and smiled, Mr. Chen is here. Seeing Chen Chen holding Chen Yuerong's arm, Xiao Ruoran was also a smart guy, Mr. Chen is here too. The words sounded nice, and it seemed that the old guy had indeed seen her, and it should have been quite a while. Chen Yuerong was a little surprised, Mr. Xiao, do you know my son? In her impression, the two should not have met. Xiao Anbang smiled calmly and explained calmly, I went to pick up my daughter from school before, and she secretly introduced her to me. The word secretly was used well, and all the smart people present looked at Chen Chen with a hint of meaning. The old guy is really bad, and his mother would have to doubt himself if he spoke like this. As expected, Chen Yuerong looked at her son with a smile. However, due to the public occasion, she didn't say much, but just pulled him to find a seat and sit down. It turns out that Mr. Xiao's daughter and my son are friends. Looking at his mother's playful eyes, Chen Chen couldn't help but greet Mr. Xiao's 8 generations of ancestors cordially. This guy is hurting people, he is really born. If he hadn't greeted his mother in advance, he would definitely take advantage of this negotiation. Xiao Anbang had a smile on his face like an elder, and said to Chen Chen, my daughter often praises you in front of me, sometimes I, as a father, envy you. On the surface, Chen Chen still smiled politely and said modestly, thank you for the praise, I really don't deserve it. I am just a gangster, and my mother often gets angry with me. Chen Yuerong, holding chopsticks, was stunned. I often get angry with him. This is the opposite of what he said. It was obviously this brat who always got angry with him. Seeing Chen Chen directly handing the right to speak to his mother, Xiao Anbang's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, he smiled, and poured a glass of wine lightly. With your and Shui's usual grades, you should be able to be admitted to Shenzhen University. Uncle congratulates you in advance. He raised the glass and drank it all. Chen Chen naturally walked up to him and filled it up politely. The old man's words reminded him a little. Going to the same university, har har. Chen Yuerong also saw something unusual. But she didn't know the specific relationship between her son and Xiao Anbang's daughter yet. So she didn't want to delve into the meaning, so she planned to talk about business first. Mr. Xiao, we'll talk about the child later. Let's finalize the cooperation project first. When talking about investment, Xiao Anbang straightened his face, I still hope that Mr. Chen can increase investment. How much does Mr. Xiao want our company to invest? 20 million. Chen Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. 20 million in 2008 was not a small amount. The number of companies in Dongcheng that can take out 20 million in one go can be counted on one hand. This is still the premise of state-owned enterprises. Chen Yuerong lowered her head and pondered for a moment, and compared the data surveyed during this period. It is very risky to directly invest such a large amount of money in a physical bookstore. In the morning, Chen Chen had already learned about the project that Xiao Anbang wanted to do. It's nothing more than finalizing some shops at the school gate through relationships. Then he wanted to turn it into a physical bookstore. In the current time span, to be honest, it is feasible. It can make money, but it's hard to make a lot of money. So Xiao Anbang is eager to attract investment and wants to win by volume. Mr. Xiao, I have a question. If we make additional investments, can your company get more stores with good geographical locations? Everyone's eyes were all on Chen Chen, who suddenly spoke. Xiao Anbang glanced at Chen Yuerong, who was also a little surprised. But he did not speak out to stop Chen Chen's speech. Without much hesitation, Xiao Anbang said, as long as there is financial support, we can naturally get more stores. He has been a physical publisher for many years. He has a lot of connections across the country, so it is still possible to spend money to get some stores with good geographical locations. Chen Chen nodded, pulled his mother out, and asked seriously, Mom, can the company account take out 30 million for this investment? Chen Yuerong's mouth twitched. What she feared was what she got. She was not afraid of her son being a playboy, but she was afraid that her son wanted to start a business. She rubbed her forehead with a headache. Yes, but the risk is too high. I don't want to pay 20 million, let alone 30 million. Chen Chen naturally knew his mother's concerns, but still said that there was no problem with this project and it was a sure win. Finally, after his soft and hard persuasion and various oaths, Chen Yuerong still agreed to his stupid request. Chen Chen, who returned to the table, said to Xiao Anbang, Mr. Xiao, my mother said that we can add 30 million to the investment. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed, and Xiao Anbang looked at Chen Chen deeply. Although he didn't know what happened, he knew that this additional investment must have something to do with this kid. This kid is not simple. It seems that his daughter needs to speed up. However, our company has another request, which is the premise of our cooperation. Xiao Anbang said doubtfully, please speak. Chen Chen smiled slightly, it's not a big deal, but I hope your company can give us an independent position in the cooperative store, and all the income from books sold at this position will belong to us. Mr. Chen, your request is a bit. Chen Chen stretched out his hand to interrupt the person who was speaking, and continued, don't worry, everyone, we won't take advantage of you. We only want 40% of the other income in the contract, how about giving you 10%? Everyone looked at me, I looked at you, and their eyes were full of excitement. Trading a position for 10% of the income is a sure win. And their company's main business is physical publishing, and they are not afraid of competition at all. As long as there is copyright in the market, they can basically get the right to sell. To put it bluntly, even if Chen's group sells a certain book and it becomes popular, they can sell it. I don't believe they can still get the exclusive right to sell. Chapter 10 This brat makes you angry every day, but you still pamper him. Chen Yuerong was completely dumbfounded and looked at her stupid son. Could this boy really have an affair with someone's daughter? Why is he so anxious to give her a gift? Using 10% of the profit to exchange for counter with no competitiveness is just giving money for nothing. Xiao Anbang also felt that his decision was suspected of pleasing his daughter, and he felt a little proud. It seems that his promotion back then was right, and now it has worked. When the time comes, if his daughter makes an effort to get back together with this boy, it will be completely hopeful to pry Chen Yuerong's corner. The Chen Group has much more abundant funds than his industry, and Chen Yuerong herself is also a beauty. Since your company is so sincere, let's finalize the contract today. The assistant sitting next to Xiao Anbang began to draft the document. Finally, Chen Yuerong signed and stamped the company's articles of association. When the Chen family mother and son returned home, neither of them spoke. Chen Yuerong sat on the sofa and took a sip of tea, looking at Chen Chen beside her. She opened her mouth and closed it immediately. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. Chen Chen was recalling the memories of his previous life. Perhaps after rebirth, some ability was triggered, which led to another round of development of brain cells, and his memory was far beyond that of ordinary people. She could think of the details of many books she had read in her previous life. Chen Yuerong, who drank a whole pot of tea, frowned, with big question marks in her eyes. She took a deep breath, bent her body slightly, turned around and looked at Chen Chen. What is your relationship with Xiao Anbang's daughter? She was a little unwilling to give up such an investment in vain, and she didn't know how much she could earn back. She had to find out the reason. She suspected that it was because of that girl that he opposed her getting too close to Xiao Anbang. Looking at his anxious mother, Chen Chen smiled and played with the teacup in his hand, an ordinary high school classmate. Chen Yuerong rolled her eyes at him, obviously not believing her son's words. An ordinary classmate can let you give away 30 million investment for free, that's the money you will use to marry a wife in the future. Who told you that it was given away for free? I'll give you a surprise after the project is launched in a while. Listening to her son's shameless remarks, Chen Yuerong sighed slightly. She still believed in her own judgment more. Her son must have an affair with someone else's daughter. This 30 million investment is just to please others. The son is really generous. Picking up a girl is 10% of the profit of the 8-digit investment. If it ends up in vain, the mother and son will really have nowhere to cry. Just when the two of them were thinking about it, the door was suddenly pushed open. Xiao Ruoran walked over in high heels. She was holding a box of lychees in her hand, which were round and round. It looks delicious. Chen Chen hurriedly stood up to greet him. Auntie Ran, did you leave work early? Ruoran, just beat up this brat, he is so disrespectful. Chen Yuerong said to Xiao Ruoran, who sat next to her. She couldn't bear to beat him, she could find someone to do it for her. Chen Chen shouted that he was wronged, he was just a friendly greeting, how could he be disrespectful? It was obvious that he wanted to beat him, and he had to find a suitable reason, it was really unfair. However, Xiao Ruoran agreed with what Chen Yuerong said, and squinted at Chen Chen with sharp eyes. There was a bit of resentment in his eyes. The brat was so disrespectful, he bullied her last night. He said that she couldn't find a boyfriend and he wanted to inherit her property. Chen Chen looked at her unwillingly and pointed in the direction of the lychee box. Chen Yuerong, who had guessed his shameless behavior, simply turned a blind eye and went back to the bedroom to pack clothes, leaving Xiao Ruoran with a word, don't spoil him too much. When she left, someone became even more unrestrained. She threw off her slippers and placed her stinky feet directly on Aunt Ran's legs. She also leaned towards her lower abdomen, showing a shameless attitude. Xiao Ruoran, who was still sulking, ignored his hint. She bent down to take out a round lychee, peeled it and put it in her mouth. There was a lot of juice, and a few drops remained at the corners of her mouth. It was crystal clear, and someone was very greedy. She pointed in the direction of the lychee box and kicked her legs with her feet. So the soft-hearted mind began to take over the cerebellum again, bending down to take out the lychee, peeled it and put it in his mouth. It was really delicious, with sweet and sour juice. The light coolness lubricated the hot throat, and for a moment his eyes narrowed into a line. After tasting a few, Chen Chen pursed his lips with satisfaction. Don't waste so much juice. Xiao Ruoran instinctively retracted her hand. You little rascal, you're really funny. Be honest, or I'll beat you up. Chen Chen didn't feel any deterrence from her soft threat. He turned over casually, it was too hot outside. Enjoying the air conditioning in the room, his eyelids soon drooped. The white jade finger poked him, but he didn't react. My head sank, the little rascal wouldn't fall asleep. There was really no way to deal with him, worried about waking him up, so I could only lean on the sofa carefully. Chen Yuerong, who came out of the room, was obviously stunned when she saw this scene, a little unbelievable, this little rascal fell asleep like this. Let him sleep for a while. Xiao Ruoran said softly, pulling the clothes on the side to cover his stomach to prevent him from catching a cold. Chen Yuerong's eyes flashed with helplessness, and she said softly, this brat makes you angry every day, and you still spoil him so much. Sister Rong, you spoil him more than me. The two looked at each other and smiled. In fact, sometimes it's not bad to have a live treasure at home. At least it can add a lot of fun. The premise is that this live treasure is not stubborn, otherwise it will be messy enough. There was something to do in the company, and Chen Yuerong hurried out. As the door closed with a snap, Xiao Ruoran relaxed. Leaning on the sofa and slowly closing his eyes. The lines on his face were soft and stretched out, with a different mature flavor. In a drowsy state, the noisy ringtone of the mobile phone broke Chen Chen's dream. He subconsciously reached out to touch the mobile phone. The Xiaolingtong is not as good as a 5G mobile phone. The ringtone has no rhythm at all and is very noisy. He answered the call in a hurry, with a slight grumpiness after getting up. Who is it? My dear, it's me, I'm your father. After a long time without reacting, Chen Chen recalled the rude voice just now. With a bang, his heart exploded. He talked to the phone in C language, and finally asked unhappily, is there anything important? I was woken up by your grandson before I woke up. Xiao Ruoran, who was sleeping on the sofa, was also woken up. At this moment, she narrowed her eyes slightly, crossed her arms, waiting for someone's explanation. She wanted to ask Chen Chen who he learned his moral qualities from, and he swore. A voice came from the other end of the phone again. The class reunion tonight, did you forget? After being reminded, Chen Chen recalled that it was indeed true, and he had agreed to attend it at the beginning. He glanced at the clock on the wall, it was 5:30, there was still time, no rush. Don't worry, I'll go in a while. Chapter 11 You were born before you were born, you were already old when you were born. After hanging up the phone, Chen Chen opened his arms softly and raised his feet. But soon Xiao Ruoran stretched out his arm and pressed his legs. Who's calling? What are you going out for? Chen Chen pointed at the table. Xiao Ruoran narrowed his eyes and put a lychee into his mouth. You bastard, just be lazy. Chen Chen, who got what he wanted, said, Fatty Jiang's phone call, there is a class reunion tonight. Jiang Wenming, known as Fatty Jiang. A good friend in high school, a good desk mate for 3 years. A talented student who plays games online every day. Academic performance has always been better than his, ranking among the top 50 in the grade. Xiao Ruoran didn't know what she was thinking. She blinked her eyes and said with an unknown meaning, Are your 2 ex-girlfriends going too? She knew that one of his ex-girlfriends had been hanging out with him a lot recently, giving people a feeling of rekindling things. But she didn't like that girl very much. She was too green tea smelling and was not suitable for Chen Chen at all. If he married such a girl, he might wear a color hat in the future. Xiao Ruoran, who was not very smart at ordinary times, was very accurate in looking at the opposite sex friends around Chen Chen. Chen Chen, who was reminded, sat up and moved his buttocks, leaning sideways on Xiao Ruoran's shoulder. Should, it seems, probably, possibly, maybe, go. Handsome people are prone to gossip. If she hadn't reminded herself, she would have forgotten that Xiao Shui and Ji Yuyanshi would attend the party. Xiao Shui didn't care. She was a scheming girl and a green tea bitch. It was easy to deal with. But Ji Yuyanshi was a little difficult to deal with. She was the campus belle in high school and her first love. They loved each other to death, and the first breakup was also forced. Later, when they went to college, they rekindled their relationship. Aunt Ran, how do you know I have 2 ex-girlfriends? Xiao Ruoran glanced at him with an indifferent look on her face. If you don't want others to know, then don't do it yourself. Chen Chen stepped forward and shook her white jade arm, and said in a tea-like manner, Just tell me. Xiao Ruoran, who really couldn't stand it, curled her lips and looked reluctant. I found it when I was washing your clothes. The love letter is well written, and you don't know how to be ashamed, dear. Chen Chen felt like covering her mouth, and didn't read out those middle school words, which would be embarrassing. When I was young, I always felt that words could move people the most, and I didn't hesitate to put in a lot of effort. Although most of them were copied, at least they looked pleasing to the eye and moved me at the time. Par. Xiao Ruoran slapped him on the arm. It had been 2 years since the love letter. She was already very upset at the time, and now she felt a piercing pain in addition to the upset. She couldn't suppress the pain no matter how hard she tried, and she kept scratching Chen Chen's arm. But no matter how she scratched, the pain in her heart never diminished. It was hard to explain, and the more she thought about it, the more she felt wronged. Other girls can like someone openly. But she can only do it secretly. You were born before you were born, and you were old when you were born. This is not fair at all. Feeling that something was wrong with her emotions, Chen Chen didn't dare to resist and let her vent her emotions. When the big tears slid down her cheeks, Xiao Ruoran covered her face and buried it in his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Xiao Chen, I'm sick, I feel so bad. Listening to her lame excuse, Chen Chen gently massaged her back. I don't think you're sick, you look like a grumpy knight, praising me. He. Xiao Ruoran was very dissatisfied with his description. What grumpy knight? Auntie is not grumpy. Although he said that, he still cooperated with Auntie Ran's poor performance. Then I'll take you back to your room to rest, and then I'll go downstairs to buy you some food and medicine. Xiao Ruoran, lying on the bed, was like a thief. Hiding under the quilt, his whole body, leaving only half of his little head. Wait for me, I'll go downstairs to buy some food. No, go to the party first. My best friend will come to see me later and bring me some food. Chen Chen stopped and tensed up a little. Which best friend? Your sister Wen. He breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be the 1.75-meter tall flight attendant Wen Qing who could do splits. That's good. Okay, you take a rest first, I'll slip away first. He closed the door tightly and called Fatty Jiang to ask about the location of the party. Xiao Ruoran in the room got up and vomited on the pillow. Feeling that this was not satisfactory, he took out a color photo of Chen Chen from the cabinet and pasted it on the pillow, and continued to vomit. She was still cursing, little scumbag. I'll beat you to death. The roar of the Land Rover raged on the asphalt road, and pedestrians on the road showed yearning eyes, and several open-minded women waved to it. In the streets of 2008, there were still few luxury cars in second and third tier cities like this. For some people, this is an opportunity to change their fate. Especially in a street full of entertainment venues. As long as you are bold enough, you can see different boldness. Seeing a familiar figure on the street, Chen Chen stepped on the accelerator and drove to his side, opened the car window, and showed a handsome face. "Hi, handsome guy, do you want to date?" Jiang Wenming, who was a little slow to react, kept his eyes on the Land Rover. He was thinking about which rich kid was out parading on the street. He didn't notice Chen Chen, who greeted him at all. It turns out that it doesn't matter who is driving the car, but what car is driving. Seeing that his eldest son didn't respond for a long time, he could only use sea language to wake him up. Jiang Wenming, who reacted, showed a shocked look. "Chen Chen, you. Is this your car?" He knew that Chen Chen's family was relatively rich, but he didn't know that he was so rich that he used a million-level luxury car to blow up the street. "It's definitely not mine, it's Aunt Ran's, I borrowed it to drive." Is Aunt Ran so rich? As a good friend of Chen Chen, he had certainly seen Xiao Ruoran, who was beautiful and cold with long legs and black stockings. From her temperament and dress, one can imagine that she is very rich. Of course, my little rich woman must have a lot of money. Hurry up and get in the car, I'll take you for a ride first. After getting in the car, Jiang Wenming looked at the decoration inside the car with envy in his eyes. If he had one, he would definitely not lack a girlfriend. Chen Chen asked, "Have you passed the driving test?" He nodded subconsciously, having just taken it out a few days ago. Chen Chen smiled and waved to him. Come and see, I'll sit in the passenger seat." Good brothers share happiness and difficulties. He must let his brother carefully feel the roar of the engine. Jiang Wenming, who was somewhat confused, shook his head hurriedly. "I can't do it." "Oh, if I say you can do it, you can do it. Drive with confidence, I'll cover you if something goes wrong." Under his strong pull, Jiang Wenming sat in the main driver's seat. Chen Chen pointed to the front. Go, let's go." Chapter 12 Super Version Ancient T0. A Land Rover was driving steadily on the hot asphalt road, looking very comfortable. The slow speed was still very suitable for today's weather. Chen Chen sat in the passenger seat with a curled mouth and squinted at Jiang Wenming. "Brother, if there is a speed limit sign, you will definitely be ticketed." Jiang Wenming smiled embarrassedly, not that he didn't want to speed up, but he didn't dare to speed up. It was less than 10 days since he got his driver's license, and his skills were not proficient. Chen Chen shook his head helplessly, leaned against the car window, and planned to take a nap. "Call me when you get to the place." Squinting his eyes, hunching his body. As expected of an age where one can sleep at the end of one's life, his breathing became steady after a while. The hot sunlight outside was almost level with the car window, and the setting sun was venting its last rays of light. When they arrived at the destination, Jiang Wenming glanced at the time. It was still half an hour before the agreed time, so he didn't plan to wake up Chen Chen. Just as he was planning to take a nap, several acquaintances rushed over from the roadside. The most eye-catching one among them was the one in the middle, Xiao Shui. He glanced at Chen Chen, but decided to get off the car and say hello first. It was impossible that no one saw such a large Land Rover, and the people headed by Xiao Shui were no exception. Seeing Jiang Wenming getting off the main driver's seat, several people were shocked. This guy could even afford a Land Rover. Especially Zhao Qingyu on the left, who knew Jiang Wenming inside and out. Jiang Wenming had written her a love letter before, but she rejected it. What a joke! If her slender figure dated a fat man weighing 200 pounds, people would laugh their heads off. She frowned and looked at the parked Land Rover again. With Jiang Wenming's family, it was impossible for him to afford such a luxury car. And in her impression, except for the school beauty Ji Yuyanxi, no one should drive a Land Rover. "Fatty, I can't tell, you are still the invisible rich second generation in the class." Facing the eyes of everyone, Jiang Wenming hurriedly explained, "Don't get me wrong, it's not my car. His family is just an ordinary supermarket owner, and they can't afford a Land Rover worth millions. Because Xiao Ruoran modified the special glass, people outside can't see inside, and naturally can't notice Chen Chen sleeping soundly on the passenger seat." Zhao Qingyu wanted to show her face in front of everyone, and said to Jiang Wenming, "Wenming, we temporarily changed the place to eat, can you drive us there?" Although the Land Rover is not Jiang Wenming's, he can drive it. The owner of the Land Rover must have a good relationship with him, and should be a relative. Looking at the dozen people, Jiang Wenming had a headache. He couldn't even fit half of them. Isn't this making him offend people? Zhao Qingyu would not think so much. She only knew that whoever could get on the car had to be named by her. After all, Jiang Wenming had written a love letter to her. Without waiting for Jiang Wenming to nod in agreement, she began to call the soldiers, Shuer, Lu Yu, Shui Feng. Let's go with Wenming first, and the others can take a car later. The rest of the people whose names were not called showed regretful expressions. There was no way, because Jiang Wenming liked Zhao Qingyu. Looking at the eyes of the crowd, Zhao Qingyu was overjoyed, and she enjoyed the feeling now. Jiang Wenming was already sweating profusely. What was going on? And Chen Chen was sitting on the passenger seat. He pulled Zhao Qingyu aside and said, "Qingyu classmate, there are not enough seats for so many people in the car, and this car belongs to Chen Chen, who is sleeping on the passenger seat. If you want to use it, you should ask him first." Zhao Qingyu looked incredible. This luxury car belongs to Chen Chen. You are fooling a fool. Although that guy has a little money at home, he doesn't drive such an expensive car. She understood. He must be afraid that she would drive Chen Chen down. So she showed a sweet expression and leaned closer to him. You have such a good relationship with Chen Chen, so you can let him down first and take a taxi with the rest of the people. What? Jiang Wenming suspected that there was something wrong with his hearing. What kind of lewd words are these? Let the owner of the car get down. Even if Chen Chen is not the owner of the car, it can't be like this. Everything should be based on first come first served. Qingyu classmate. Wenming, those are all my good friends, please give me some face. She deliberately spoke in a coquettish voice, and she didn't believe that she couldn't convince him. Jiang Wenming said directly, Qingyu classmate, Chen Chen is not only my best friend, but also the owner of the car. It is not appropriate in terms of emotion and reason. Seeing that he was not moved by soft and hard words, Zhao Qingyu's eyebrows were a little unhappy. But she still held back her temper. After all, she still needed him to save face for her. She thought about it, took a step back and said, I also have a driver's license, how about letting me drive? Don't worry about anything, I'll let Shuer and Chen Chen talk. With Xiao Shue's relationship, she didn't believe that they would be driven off. Without waiting for the fat man to object, she ran over and told her best friend about this matter. Xiao Shui took everyone in the car with a cold face. But at this moment, Xiao Shue's face was no longer smiling, and her face was full of clouds. That guy not only broke the appointment that night, but also didn't answer her phone calls or reply to her messages, making her lose face. As a good girlfriend, Zhao Qingyu naturally knew about this matter. In order to help her best girlfriend, she woke up Chen Chen and said bluntly, you sit in the back and let Shuer sit in the front. Chen Chen, who was confused, rubbed his eyes. Why did he have hallucinations in broad daylight? Rubbing his eyes until they hurt, he couldn't break the illusion in front of him. What are you talking about? Hurry up and go to the back. Chen Chen realized that this was not an illusion, this was real, it was really Xiao Shui and the others. At this time, the fat man told him everything that happened before and after, and let him decide. He asked unhappily, am I familiar with you? These old women suddenly came up and almost scared him to death. The putty powder on Zhao Qingyu's face was enough to be the bottom, and she was definitely starring in a ghost movie. Why do you care about others? Hurry up and change seats with Shuer. Do you have the nerve to sit in the passenger seat as a grown man? Damn it, the super version of the ancient T0 still made me meet it. Rush to the back seat without my consent, and shamelessly blame me. Also, why can't men sit in the passenger seat? I often sat in the passenger seat in my previous life, but the woman in the main seat was not so ugly. At this time, Xiao Shui stood up and acted like a good person. Okay Qingyu, let him sit in the passenger seat, I'll sit in the back. It would have been fine if she didn't say anything, but once she spoke, Zhao Qingyu stood up for her. Why are you so nice to him? Forgot that he left someone in the bar that night. She looked at Chen Chen angrily. What kind of man are you? You left your ex-girlfriend in the bar, isn't that disgusting? Chen Chen's head was buzzing. When did I leave her in the bar? Shuer, look at him, he didn't apologize, and is still pretending to be confused. Xiao Shui clenched her fists, holding back her anger. I was waiting for you in the bar the night after the third test. After she reminded him, he remembered, I didn't say I was going to the bar to find you. Xiao Shui bit her lip and said, I sent messages to you and called you. Chapter 13 Goodbye First Love Ji Yu Yinshi. You are my ex-girlfriend, not my current girlfriend. Please recognize your identity. I have no obligation to serve you. Xiao Shue's head was buzzing with anger after hearing these words. Before she could open her mouth, her best friend started to attack Chen Chen on her behalf. You are such a scumbag. Shuer was so nice to you before. The fat man suddenly said, Brother Chen was also very good to Xiao Shui in the past. It's not like he didn't give anything. As soon as he opened his mouth, Zhao Qingyu became even more excited. Isn't it his duty to be nice to his girlfriend? As a boy, shouldn't he take care of girls? Professional fairies never complain about the environment, because they can always find a glimmer of hope from desperate situations. Chen Chen would not indulge this woman's unreasonable behavior. Why do you talk so much nonsense? Do I need you to teach me how to do things? The other people in the back seat couldn't stand it anymore and stood up to support their friend. Chen Chen, can you be more tolerant? Why do you have to talk to a girl like this? That's right, Qingyu is just worried that Shuer will meet a scumbag. And what they said is not wrong. You should put Shuer first in your life. Chen Chen stroked his forehead, his head swelled violently. The first place in life? How could a mouth with a temperature of 37 degrees utter such cold words? With this attack power, even if you move Sakyamuni here, he will have to take 2 punches before he can move. Xiao Shui also felt that what her friends said was right, but she couldn't break off with Chen Chen yet. Her father told her that only by getting him could they take over the Chen group. So she stood up to defend Chen Chen. Okay, stop talking about him. He must be busy with something important. It's okay. Zhao Qingyu held her hand distressedly. Shuer, I am really crying my heart out. How could there be such a good girl like you in the world? Several others also said, Shuer is so considerate. Whoever marries Shuer will be very happy. Chen Chen said in his heart that the ancestral grave should be covered with green grassland. Stop. If you think she's so good, just let your brothers marry her home and don't bother me. I just woke up and the noise gave me a headache. Go down quickly. Xiao Shui looked at him in disbelief. She originally thought that he was just throwing a tantrum, but she didn't expect that he would actually dare to chase her away. Zhao Qingyu was not going to stand it anymore. Not only Shuer was hit on the face, but his own face was also slapped. Chen Chen, what kind of man are you to say such things to a group of girls? He was too lazy to talk nonsense with these people. He opened the car door and drove them out. He got a headache when he saw them. When they arrived at the place, Chen Chen did not rush to get off the car, but asked the fat man, let me ask you one question, do you still like Zhao Qingyu now? The fat man quickly shook his head and said, that's all in the past. I don't like her anymore. Her personality is not suitable for me. Chen Chen breathed a sigh of relief, and the discomfort he had just felt disappeared. It's good that you don't like her. That woman is a jinx. Not only does he have no information at all, but he is also very stubborn. Judging from the fat guy's soft appearance, if he really became her boyfriend, he would be no different from a silly husky. However, as soon as he got off the bus, he was blocked by someone who came in a hurry. Xiao Chen. Xiao Shui came to Chen Chen. Out of confidence in herself and for the sake of Chen's business, she had already convinced herself through the journey she had just taken. This guy Chen Chen must be playing hard to get with her. Since she has taken the initiative, he will definitely not give up so easily. At this moment, she had a sweet smile on her face. Her curved eyelashes attracted the hearts of all the male classmates. A sweet and lovely image is a sure win for boys of this age group. The fat man stepped back consciously. It seemed that his ex-sister-in-law was a little thick-skinned. After what he said to her just now, she was still able to get close to him. Chen Chen cursed the fat man in his heart and his face looked a little ugly. After dinner, let's go to the park together. The school beauty is here too. The voices from the crowd disrupted Xiao Shui's thoughts, and she subconsciously looked back. Chen Chen also looked over there, and the figure in his memory appeared again. A lace-pleated skirt, tightly wrapped long stockings, and 3,000 strands of black hair hanging freely. The delicate face is like a girl in a painting, with a pair of big, sparkling eyes. A pink bow hung above her head, flickering in the afterglow of the sunset as she moved. The brown leather boots made her look like a lotus with every step, and her light steps touched everyone's hearts. All eyes are focused on this beauty. She really deserves to be his former white moonlight. This appearance, this temperament, all confirm his vision back then. Xiao Shue's face was a little gloomy. If there was anyone who could suppress her, it would be the girl in front of her. Not only is she outstanding in appearance, but her family background is also unmatched. Even if there were 10 Xiao groups combined, it wouldn't work. She just walked straight towards her, and Xiao Shui unconsciously took a few steps back. The auras of the two were simply not on the same level. Memory and reality overlapped, and Chen Chen's eyes were complicated when he reacted. Quietly looking at the stunning beauty who has come closer. Against the backdrop of dusk, her body was coated with a layer of gold. The skin that is whiter than frost and snow is very tempting. Your vision is really not that good. She shook her head slightly, glancing at Xiao Shui beside her intentionally or unintentionally. Xiao Shui had no evidence and dared not speak out. As if he didn't hear what she said, he turned his attention back to himself. After sorting out his emotions, his eyes returned to their original calmness. I want to buy some osmanthus flowers and put them in the wine, but it doesn't feel like the days when I was young. The Chen Chen who once had a love-brained mind is long gone. Ji Yunxi stared at Chen Chen with fiery eyes. Don't you have anything you want to tell me? After thinking for a moment, Chen Chen shook his head slightly. Let the flowers be flowers, the trees be trees, and the memories be memories. Not hearing what she wanted to hear, Ji Yunxi felt a little disappointed and a little nervous, and hung her head. When she raised her eyes again, her gaze was still fiery, but also a little more painful. Chen Chen, you have never been firm. A bullet hit Chen Chen right between his eyebrows, and his heart was filled with confusion. The boy from many years ago transcended time and answered for him. That year, I could only do so much. I had no more energy to spare. Miss Ji, how much power can a teenager have? What can he do? He can't even live alone. With a slight sigh, the old and new look in his eyes switched. Not all efforts can fill your expectations. Ji Yunxi stared at Chen Chen's receding back in silence, then gritted her teeth and chased after him. Everyone was stunned. From the tone of her voice, it seemed that the school beauty still had feelings for Chen Chen. No, man, why? The news that the school beauty was in love with Chen Chen caused a huge uproar in the school, and the hearts of countless people were broken. Most of the classmates thought that the school belle at that time was too young and was deceived by Chen Chen's superficial appearance. Later, the two broke up, which confirmed everyone's guess that the school beauty was a prodigal son who had turned over a new leaf. The current scene is tantamount to a slap in the face to everyone. It seems that the school beauty still has feelings for Chen Chen. With the school beauty Ji Yunxi in front and the beautiful Xiao Shui behind, can one really make a living by relying on one's looks? Chapter 14, like a teenager bidding farewell to youth, 3 chapters in 1. The atmosphere in the private room was a bit weird, and Chen Chen was sweating profusely. This is not a dinner party, but a sure field. On the left was Ji Yunxi, and on the right was Xiao Shui, and everyone's eyes were still on them. The fat guy is a disloyal guy. He ran away at the critical moment and was so far away from him. Sorry everyone, there was a traffic jam on the road, so I'm a little late. The sudden sound broke the existing atmosphere. Following the voice, I saw the person in charge of this party, Wang Letian. He was a transfer student in his 3rd year of high school. Both of his parents did business in Kyoto, so he always considered himself a Kyoto native. I don't have any hobbies on weekdays, I just like to act like a fool. He glanced at the seats at the dining table and sat down next to Ji Yunxi without saying a word. Everyone pursed their lips in tacit understanding, as if they were having fun watching. Everyone here knows that Wang Letian likes Ji Yunxi. It is reasonable for a young man from Kyoto to marry a girl from a rich family. At least it looks more reasonable than Chen Chen. He is just a gangster who is good at studying. Everyone in the school knew that Chen Chen liked to cause trouble, and having his parents called to school was a common occurrence during his 3 years in high school. Everyone, today is our first gathering after graduation. After this, everyone will go their separate ways. So, I prepared some gifts for everyone. There was thunderous applause and a proud smile appeared on his face. Everyone loves it, they just like it. Several hotel staff members brought in 2 wooden boxes from outside. When I opened it, I saw many beautifully packaged gift boxes inside. Wang Letian leaned over to take it out, and handed it to everyone with his head held high. Except for Ji Yunxi, there was a gift box in front of everyone's table. Wang Letian naturally would not forget his goddess, and he took out a long wooden box from his arms. Regardless of what is inside, the level of carving on the long box alone highlights the high price of the gift. Obviously, it is not comparable to those sent out before. He wanted to win the favor of the beauty by means of comparison, but unfortunately Ji Yunxi didn't buy it. She just pushed the gift back. The rosy and plump lips opened slightly, and a sweet voice like the chirping of an oriole rang in everyone's ears. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wang. I appreciate your kindness. But I cannot accept gifts without merit. The gift is too valuable. I cannot accept it. This is the family motto." The polite refusal made everyone secretly give him a thumbs up. He was indeed a wealthy family and his words were to the point. It seems that Wang Letian is not liked by beautiful women, and some people are very happy about it. White moonlight is white moonlight, and I will not bow down for a few ounces of silver. Wang Letian forced a smile. He obviously didn't expect to be rejected so straightforwardly. He didn't even bother to open the box. "Yunxi, this is just an ordinary commemorative gift. It's a token of my appreciation. Please accept it. If it doesn't work, I'll go talk to my aunt." Chen Chen, who was busy eating, suddenly widened his eyes. What did this guy say? He wanted to talk to Ji Yunxi's mother? Har har, doesn't he know how powerful that tigress is? When her mother saw him kissing her daughter, the look in her eyes almost killed him. If Ji Yunxi hadn't begged for mercy on his behalf, his ashes would probably have been scattered into the sea. Love can conquer mountains and seas. Does this guy really think he can overcome the huge obstacle of Gu's mother? For the sake of the class monitor's sincerity, please accept it, Mr. Ji. Someone pleaded for Wang Letian. Once one person spoke, many others followed suit, all wanting to gain respect in front of this young master from Kyoto. However, Ji Yunxi remained unmoved, her eyes fixed on Chen Chen who was eating. "I'm mute and don't know how to say something to help out." Feeling a little resentful, she secretly kicked him with her little feet. Chen Chen, who was drinking soup, spilled it all over the table. He glared at Ji Yunxi in dissatisfaction. "What the hell are you doing, you little girl? You can't even let me eat in peace." Ji Yunxi stared at him, not wanting to be outdone. Everyone's eyes fell on Chen Chen and Ji Yunxi again. Ji Yunxi felt a little embarrassed by being stared at, and calmed down her emotions. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wang, I appreciate your kindness, but I can't accept your gift." Having been rejected repeatedly, Wang Letian knew that he couldn't give it again, no matter how thick-skinned he was. He took back the gift awkwardly, with a hint of dissatisfaction towards Chen Chen in his eyes. "Why are you sitting next to your ex-boyfriend? You really don't know etiquette." Chen Chen had no idea what this guy was thinking, so he just lowered his head and continued to eat. "I shouldn't have been soft-hearted and agreed to the fat man's nagging, otherwise I wouldn't be so embarrassed now." The dinner was spent with most people laughing and chatting. After the party, Wang Letian suggested that everyone go to KTV to sing together. Chen Chen, who wanted to refuse, was forced by the fat man to go. He looked at Howda speechlessly. The dinner was over, but he didn't ask for the phone number. Yes, the fat guy attended the party just to get the goddess phone number. However, this goddess is not Zhao Qingyu, but Xinai Xin, the deputy monitor in the senior year of high school. As far as he could remember, the two of them had never been in a relationship, let alone gotten married. The fat guy's real result is a violent senior schoolmate, but that's all something that will happen in college in the future. He patted the fat man on the shoulder and said, "You've already graduated, can you look forward?" Unexpectedly, the fat man said, "Sincere love, loyal and unswerving." Then Chen Chen couldn't help but beat him up. "Damn it, the first person you liked was obviously Zhao Qingyu, and now you come out to act like a big shot. I think what Jiang said is right." Ji Yunxi walked up to them with the Qinglian step and raised both hands to agree with the fat man's point of view. Being in love, Chen Chen rolled his eyes and said, "I object." Of course those who are playboys will object. Ji Yunxi looked directly at a certain bastard. There was something wrong in the atmosphere, and the fat man ran away in panic again. This woman has a fragile heart and might cry if she is scolded. Chen Chen chose to avoid the topic. Just when I was about to talk about something else, she stopped me in my tracks. "I apologize to you for what happened before. I'm sorry." The beautiful figure in front of him reflected a curved shape on the ground under the light of the street lamp, and Chen Chen was slightly stunned. This proud girl has actually learned to bow her head, which makes me feel as if I am in another world. He smiled bitterly. I don't even recognize you anymore. Thinking he was mocking her, her face flushed a little, and she pursed her rosy lips. I did ignore your limited abilities at that age before, I was wrong. He apologized again, bowing even deeper. The little brown leather shoes made a rubbing sound, and her body was quite resilient, worthy of being a dancing genius. Chen Chen stepped forward and helped her up. Your gift is too heavy. There is no need to do so. What's past is past. Feeling the warmth of his palm, her eyes suddenly became hot, as if something was about to burst out. I turned around quickly and looked up at the moon, its heavy crystal reflecting the moonlight. Chen Chen, you are a thief. Ji Yuyanshi turned around angrily, which made Chen Chen feel puzzled. How did he become a thief? Do all women change their expressions so quickly? He was at a loss for words and had no idea what Ji Yuyanshi was up to. Inside the KTV room, Ji Yuyanshi and Xiao Shui stood on Chen Chen's left and right like bodyguards. He was still wondering how he became the thief that Ji Yuyanshi mentioned. I don't remember taking anything from her. It's really a strange thing that has landed her in the wrong hands. Chen Chen, can we change positions? A discordant voice sounded amidst the noisy music. Wang Letian stared at him with fierce eyes. Chen Chen stood up and left the private room. It was too noisy here, so he went out to buy a pack of cigarettes. These days, KTVs sell cigarettes fairly reasonably, only 2 or 3 yuan more expensive than outside. If it were placed in later times, the starting price would be at least $5. With a clanging sound, blue flames dotted the air. Then there was a cloud of smoke. He sat by the window, his eyes absorbed in the darkness outside. Chen Chen. It was that voice again, and he turned around impatiently. Wang Letian walked up to him and pretended to fan the air. How come you learned to smoke? Smoking is bad for your health. Girls don't like second-hand smoke the most. There was no kindness in the tone of advice, but rather a sense of complacency. It was as if Chen Chen's smoking helped him pick up girls. He felt that smoking was a symbol of hooliganism and that the school beauty would never like a boy who smoked. Little did people know that when Chen Chen and Ji Yuyanshi were dating, they were much more rogue than this one. The kind that can make the school beauty cry 3 times a day. Chen Chen was selectively deaf to Wang Letian's words. This made Wang Letian very unhappy. Chen Chen, I know you can hear me, there is no need to pretend to be dumb. It's impossible for Yunshi to like someone like you. Don't get close to her again. I heard from others that Yunshi cried every day when she was with you. You don't deserve to make the girl you like cry. After listening to him mumbling a lot, Chen Chen only had 2 words in his mind. Licking dog. Save these words of preaching for your son later. Chen Chen said indifferently. Since there was no point in talking, he patted his butt and prepared to move to a quieter place. But Wang Letian stopped him. Chen Chen, people should know themselves. Do you know Yunshi's family? There's a saying that goes, a match made in heaven. When he said this, he looked obviously proud. It seems that this is the confidence given to him by his parents. But Chen Chen just smiled and said nothing. A match made in heaven. I'm afraid that even if your family's assets increase tenfold, they still won't be as much as Ji Yuyanshi's. This child still doesn't quite understand the value of Ji Yuyanshi. In his impression, the only one who could compete with Ji Yuyanshi was Aunt Ran. Can you understand what I'm saying? Chen Chen smiled politely, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. You don't understand, get out. If you don't say anything, you might think he has a good temper. His reputation as a bully in previous years was not earned for nothing. Wang Letian was stunned and didn't react to this national quintessence. Having been a young master in Kyoto for so many years, no one has ever spoken to him like this. But Chen Chen didn't care whether he was this master or that master, he would beat him up if he was unhappy with him. As the sound of the lighter rang out, Chen Chen glared at him and said, You look like a human being, so why don't you do anything? If you like Ji Yuyanshi, go find her. What's the point of looking for me? Wang Letian was a little confused by his retort, and his whole body was shaking. How dare you scold me? Maybe he was so angry that his actions were controlled by anger. Wang Letian, you dare. After the 2 scoldings, Wang Letian became much more sober. But Chen Chen would not give him a chance to wake up. He kicked him and sent him flying 2 meters away. He was the first to attack. I was just acting in self-defense. Ji Yuyanshi and Xiao Shui were stunned and didn't care about Wang Letian at all. Chen Chen, are you okay? Wang Letian, lying on the ground, was dumbfounded. What could happen to him? He was the one in trouble. Ji Yuyanshi's worried expression was like a needle prick in his eyes, making him feel extremely heartbroken. Ji Yuyanshi, you have already broken up, why do you still want to find someone to bully Chen Chen? Xiao Shui threw dirty water at Ji Yuyanshi. She believed that it was because of Ji Yuyanshi's existence that Wang Letian became hostile to Chen Chen. Ji Yuyanshi was obviously aware of this as well, her eyes turned red, and she didn't know how to refute. He consciously took the blame. If I hadn't looked at Chen Chen when I received the gift just now, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. Chen Chen frowned, this woman is really scheming. Even this can be framed, it is really insidious. He felt a little disappointed. Ji Yuyanshi really had a mouth for nothing. She just confronted him directly. You were very talkative when you were arguing with me before, why are you so discouraged now? Oh, a typical bully. Chen Chen, let's go and not stay with them. Xiao Shui saw that Ji Yuyanshi was speechless and felt proud. Taking this opportunity, he immediately wanted to pull Chen Chen away. Ji Yuyanshi grabbed Chen Chen's arm as if she was under stress, and insisted that Xiao Shui could not take him away no matter what. Xiao Shui's eyes were blazing with fire. Ji Yuyanshi, isn't it bad enough that you've hurt Chen Chen? Let go immediately. Ji Yuyanshi, who was being bullied by both sides, bit her lip tightly and finally managed to utter, I will apologize to him, but you can't take him away. He took a deep breath, and his mind seemed to come back to him. He then said, you and he have also broken up, so please don't meddle in their business. Chen Chen was a little depressed. Don't you ask the opinions of the parties involved. Also, Xiao Shui's shamelessness and brain circuitry really left him speechless. He could only say that he had never seen such a woman like her before, the kind that couldn't be driven away even by scolding. Xiao Shui, you have some divine gold in you, let go. Xiao Shui's body stiffened. She was clearly speaking for him, so how did she end up with the divine gold? Moreover, I had been accompanying him to bars for some time, but he dumped me as soon as Ji Yuyanshi showed up. He broke free from their hands, turned back to the private room and said hello to the fat man. Chen Chen and Ji Yuyanshi were listening to the wind on the park path in silence. Unable to bear this atmosphere, Ji Yuyanshi said, I'm sorry, it's me. Chen Chen was not an unreasonable person, and he immediately interrupted her apology, this matter has nothing to do with you, you don't need to apologize. Honestly, aren't you usually quite fierce? Why did you die today? Ji Yuyanshi straightened her body and twisted her hands around his waist, you are the fierce one, I am very gentle, okay. Har har har. Chen Chen laughed so hard that he bent over backwards, as if he had heard some great joke. It's not you who bit someone's lip. Ji Yuyanshi raised her eyebrows. He could even say such words. He was still as rogue as ever. If you don't make me angry, can I bite you? The force on his waist was stronger. Chen Chen gasped in pain, let go, you're so cruel. Ji Yuyanshi, who was still angry, didn't want to listen to him at all and continued to exert her strength. Chen Chen raised his leg and kicked him from behind. Ji Yuyanshi took several steps forward with a look of disbelief on her face. He actually dared to kick her. It instantly transformed into a little tiger and pounced towards Chen Chen. You bastard, how dare you kick me? Chen Chen dodged it easily. But he couldn't stand her persistence and took a few bites. Ji Xiaogo, you really have sharp teeth. You must have good food on weekdays and you are so well raised. The familiar name made Ji Yuyanshi slightly startled, because she used to get angry with him often and would bite him when she was angry. But he couldn't fight himself, so every time he bit him, he would call him by this nickname. She lowered her pretty, blushing face and spat, you are the puppy. Then someone pulled off the bow on her head and played with it. Familiar name, familiar actions, for a moment she didn't know what to do. She was tormented by the combination of grievance and expectation. My little heart was beating wildly. You only know how to bully me. You still bully me after we broke up, you bastard. Chen Chen patted her head and said, you act as if you have never bullied me. Have you forgotten all those stupid things you did? Spit into a water bottle, dip starch sausage in mustard, cut holes in the buttocks of pants. Humph, that was self-defense. Har har, now you have a mouth. What were you doing just now? I She was left silent again. This bastard is too bullying. I can't stand it anymore. I'll bite him as soon as I catch him. The 3,000 strands of black hair fell freely on his arms, tickling him. He pinched her soft cheek hard and said, "It's been so long since we broke up, men and women shouldn't be intimate with each other." As a result, she acted like she had been injected with hormones and her bites became even more vicious. You can feel the salty taste in your mouth. I pinched her chin hard and finally saved her arm. Under the streetlight, the teeth marks were clear and there were a few streaks of blood. Do you believe me and I'll pull out your 2 little canine teeth? Obviously, she didn't believe it and showed her cherry lips to Chen Chen. The posture is clear, come and pull it out if you have the guts. Chen Chen could only pretend not to see it. He turned his head slightly and admired the lotus flowers in the pond next to him. The seduction plan failed, and Jiu Yunxi was a little disappointed. The evening breeze ruffled their hair, and ripples appeared on the surface of the lake. Jiu Yunxi seemed to see the figures of the two of them in the clear lake, and said in a complicated tone, "Xiao Chen." "I." Chen Chen turned around, a smile on his face, his eyes shining with moonlight. "You should have asked for Kyoto when school starts. Congratulations. Today is the last night to modify university applications, like a teenager bidding farewell to his youth." She had excellent academic performance and went to Kyoto University in her previous life. There was a college social event in the second half of their freshman year, and the two met again in Shenzhen, where their old love was rekindled. Jiu Yunxi was stunned. "Congratulations on what? Aren't you going to Kyoto too?" When the results were announced, she specifically asked Jiang Wenming. Chen Chen nodded slightly, and his memory returned to the past. "Brother Chen, Miss Jiu asked me, where did you apply for the major? How many points did she get?" 700. First in the grade. So awesome. Then tell her that I'm going to Kyoto. Kyoto has the best universities in the country. Chen Chen, who was in a daze, was suddenly grabbed by the collar, and a faint fragrance penetrated into his nostrils. Jiu Yunxi, with an angry expression, leaned close to his cheek. "Did Jiang Wenming deceive me? You didn't plan to go to Kyoto at all." Although Chen Chen nodded just now, she knew Chen Chen very well. He hesitated. Chen Chen, who was determined to be a bad guy to the end, looked clear-eyed. "I'm just going to Kyoto." "Heh, then why are you so nervous?" She leaned against him and could clearly feel his tense body. "Shenzhen University, right?" Chen Chen's mouth was a little dry. How could she still remember that she was going to Shenzhen City? She felt extremely regretful. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have told her. "What Shenzhen University? I don't understand what you are talking about. I know your grades are just enough to pass the admission score of Shenzhen University this year. I love Kyoto." "You farted. Why are you cursing?" "I'm scolding you." Chen Chen. Chen Chen, who couldn't hide it, could only find another way. He appealed to her emotions and reason. "You are carrying the expectations of your family. My dad let me choose the school freely without considering any other factors. Damn, are there any family members so willful? However, my mother seemed to have told me the same thing at the time, just go wherever you like." All the worries finally turned into a helpless sigh. "If you were still my girlfriend, I would beat you up right now." Chapter 15. I always listen to my aunt. Say goodbye to July and welcome the even hotter August. After parting in the park, Chen Chen hadn't contacted Jiu Yunxi for many days. I don't know if that love-brained guy changed his choice. The densely packed text on the computer screen in front of me is dizzying. After nearly a month of hard work, we finally lived up to everyone's expectations. It was as if he was possessed by a plagiarist who integrated and adapted several very popular fantasy novels from his previous life. It contains millions of words, and his typing speed and time are comparable to those of a model worker. I write more than 30,000 words a day, and my eyes are full of stars. Fortunately, after rebirth, not only the memory was transformed, but the physical fitness also received a wave of sublimation. The cooperation that was finalized with Xiao Anbang last time has begun to be implemented, and my mother has been busy these days just for this matter. He will apply for the copyright in the next few days. In 2008, smartphones were not popular yet, so physical novels still had a large market. What's more, his cool writing with advanced fusion themes can easily beat all the amateur writings nowadays. He stretched his waist and walked to the living room holding onto the wall. After a day of hunger, they come out to look for food. Ring, ring, ring tilde. I picked up the phone, it was Xiao Ruoran. I don't know what she has been busy with during this period and she hasn't paid much attention to me. After putting down the phone, I went back to the room and put on my shirt. The Land Rover, which hasn't been driven for nearly a month, is still so shiny. It must have been maintained by Aunt Ran recently. It's really good. They knew I wanted to drive it and even helped me with maintenance. The roar of the engine broke the quiet night, and the lights shuttled across the roads in East City. A lakeside tavern in the northern part of East City. Xiao Ruoran and her bestie Wenqing were enjoying the evening breeze and drinking beer, looking very comfortable. The life of a rich woman is different, there is not so much hustle and bustle. Chen Chen, who arrived late, was cursing all the time and didn't even bother to tell him the specific coordinates, causing him to search for a long time. Xiao Ruoran, why didn't you answer the phone call? While greeting the 1.75 meter tall stewardess Wenqing who could do the splits, he accused Xiao Ruoran of her evil deeds. In his opinion, Xiao Ruoran deliberately didn't answer his calls, just to make him keep looking for her. He grabbed the beer from her hand and poured it into his mouth, and the hot little face cooled down a little. Wenqing forced a smile on his cold face. You are really good, you dare to call your aunt by her full name. The corner of Chen Chen's mouth twisted in triumph. I can't help it, I was spoiled by my aunt. Xiao Ruoran kicked him in anger. You little bastard, be careful or I'll beat you up. The table was filled with his favorite foods, and it was obvious that they were provided by Aunt Ran. After sitting down, we started to feast on the food. Xiao Ruoran, who was standing by, fed the crayfish that had been peeled in advance into his mouth with her own hands. Someone was making small movements all the time, taking a bite and holding it in his mouth. Xiao Ruoran, who knew his nature well, was afraid of poking the corner of his mouth, so she cut off the nail polish on 2 fingers some time ago. The two people's love blinded Wenqing's eyes, and she complained, Are you two showing off your love for me? After hearing this, the two of them obviously slowed down their movements. Chen Chen, who reacted, didn't feel anything. He was just wondering, could it be that Sister Wen knew Aunt Ran's little thoughts? Xiao Ruoran didn't have the same mentality as him. He was like a thief whose secret was discovered. He looked flustered and dropped the crayfish in his hand onto the table. He quickly sat down next to Wenqing and covered her mouth with his hand. What nonsense are you talking about in front of Xiao Chen? Don't teach the child bad things. Wenqing whimpered as his mouth was stained with the oily hands of hers. Screaming murder in my heart. Finally, it was Chen Chen who reminded, You are about to suffocate Sister Wen to death. It's not a big secret, is there any need to be so excited? Xiao Ruoran, who had let go of her hand, had not yet disappeared. Wenqing and Chen Chen could also see that she was really angry. Wenqing picked up a tissue and wiped her mouth, then apologized to her like a good friend. And he said that he would never talk nonsense again. Only then did Xiao Ruoran let her go. She sat back in her original seat and continued to feed him lobster with a flushed cheek. She glared at him several times, reminding him not to bully her fingertips. Someone may understand with his eyes, but his mouth cannot see. Still doing my own thing. Wenqing sighed at the side, so I'm the only outsider. The soft-hearted god immediately began to take over the brain and sat next to his bestie with some fruit. Not only did he peel the skin for her, he also fed her with his own hands. Wenqing's lowered eyes immediately curved into crescents, and he looked at Xiao Ruoran in an extremely ambiguous manner. Someone's inappropriate words began to ruin the atmosphere again. Sister Wen, the night is so charming tonight, why don't you perform a split to liven up the atmosphere? It's rare to see a 1.75 meter tall stewardess performing the splits. You little brat, my sister is wearing tight stockings. It's okay. If it's broken, I'll buy you a new one and pay you 3 times the price. Par. Xiao Ruoran came back to him and slapped him on the head. You just dream about beautiful things all day long. If you want to see splits, go to the bar. Chen Chen's eyes lit up, he picked up the car keys on the table and was about to leave. Xiao Ruoran grabbed him and said, You bastard, you dare to go to the bar, are you asking for a beating? Chen Chen said aggrievedly, Didn't you ask me to go? I. Xiao Ruoran twisted his arm, When did you become so obedient? I always listen to my aunt the most. Seeing Chen Chen, who was a head taller than her, burying himself in her arms like a little wife, she felt inexplicably happy. But she still said stubbornly, "You listen to bullshit. I don't allow you to fall in love too early, but you've only dated 2 people in 3 years, and I know this." "I don't know, humph." Hearing such slander, Chen Chen put his arm around her waist and sat on the bench. "Xiao Ruoran, can we have a little trust between the two of us? Apart from those two, I really haven't talked about anyone else." Xiao Ruoran still hummed, "Bad boy, you are so fickle, only a ghost would believe what you say." She didn't believe it, but someone else did. When Qing stepped forward to smooth things over for her, "I believe in brother Chen Chen's character. What he said is true. I have a friend who is like this. Although he slept with 2 women, he only dated one of them." After hearing what you said, both of them became furious. "Sister Wen, you." "Chen Chen." Xiao Ruoran's nose touched his nose directly. "If you dare to imitate Xiao Wen's friend, I will beat you to death." Chen Chen was in tears at this moment. Sister Wen was not trying to help him out, but wanted to bury him alive. Her personality and appearance are totally inconsistent. She is a complete contrast woman. But the biggest contrast is the aloof counselor in college. That person is also Aunt Ran's good friend. Aunt Ran originally wanted her to help take good care of him, but she didn't expect that she would later perform a trick to reverse the Qian gang. Because of this incident, Aunt Ran even wanted to stab him. Chapter 16, Aunt Ran, I have had a weak body since I was a child. After dinner, Chen Chen kept winking at Wen Qing. Wen Qing understood and pointed 3 fingers at him. She hugged Xiao Ruoran's arm and said, "Ruoran, let's go to a nearby bar and have some fun." "What's fun in a bar? There are beautiful women who can do the splits." Xiao Ruoran stared at Chen Chen with murderous eyes. Chen Chen immediately hid behind Wen Qing and said weakly, "I didn't say anything." After being pulled by her best friend at home, she gave in. "Go, yes." Chen Chen's eyes lit up. Xiao Ruoran's gaze turned to him again, and his neck immediately shrank again. "Xiao Chen, you must stay by my side at all times and don't run around." She was a little worried that this boy might not behave himself and run away with some woman. Chen Chen immediately said that there was no problem, and he moved closer to her and held her arm. The little face rubbed against her arm. Xiao Ruoran wanted to pull off the sleeves, but found nothing. The dress had no sleeves at all. I could only pinch his face in dissatisfaction. When they arrived at the bar, the 3 of them found a quiet booth. The smell of alcohol filled the noise of the crowd. Xiao Ruoran and Wen Qing's beautiful faces and tall figures attracted a lot of attention at once. Some restless guys came over self-righteously. "Beauty, 2 of you." Chen Chen poured a glass of wine and said calmly, "Everyone has a boyfriend, so we won't share the table." Since he was the one who instigated this, he should be the one to deal with the trouble. The beauty gave him courage, and the guy still didn't give up. "We're all in the bar, just want to make friends." Chen Chen stretched out his arms and hugged them. They are both quite shy and don't like strangers very much. This attitude of declaring sovereignty left the person in front speechless, and he could only leave in anger. What a joke! At such a young age, you don't learn well and try to take on so much responsibility like others. When Qing blinked and leaned her head against his chest, "I didn't expect you to be so responsible." Xiao Ruoran pouted and pushed her best friend's head out, and spat, "You squeezed me." When Qing acted innocent and asked, "One on the left and one on the right, how did I squeeze you?" "Chen Chen, did you often do this before?" Chen Chen also showed an innocent expression and cried out that he was wronged. Then he raised his glass and drank to drown his sorrows. "Humph, your technique is so skillful, I can tell you must have done this often before." Chen Chen and Wen Qing looked at each other and shook their heads. This woman probably has some relatives coming over today, and she is in a very bad mood. As a result, after they had drunk less than 2 glasses, Xiao Ruoran snatched the glass from Chen Chen's hand. "The wine is too cold. Don't drink so much. It's bad for your stomach." "Auntie Ran, this drink isn't served with ice." Xiao Ruoran, who believed that he couldn't drink too much, would not listen to his explanation. In short, if you are not allowed to drink, you are not allowed to drink. She picked up the fruit plate on the booth and stuffed the fruits into his mouth. "It would be nice to have some fruit. There's nothing good about drinking alcohol." Chen Chen retorted, "I am an adult now, and I will definitely have to accompany drinking when I work in the future." Xiao Ruoran raised the corners of her soft mouth, "Auntie will drink it for you." Wen Qing, who was standing by, seemed to smell something unusual. From the sound of your voice, you want to be Xiao Chen's secretary. Xiao Ruoran wiped her wet fingers, picked up Chen Chen's unfinished glass and took a sip. Xiao Chen will definitely take over Sister Rong's company in the future, so I naturally have to take care of my relationship with Sister Rong. Besides, given this brat's temper, if I don't follow him, I don't know what day I will transfer my stocks to some little fox. Wen Qing pursed her lips and smiled. This kid Chen Chen must have done something bad in the past. Otherwise, Ruoran wouldn't have been left with such a stereotyped impression. Chen Chen, the person involved, felt dizzy. Why can't Aunt Ran get over her prematic love? There is no way around this matter in what you say. Auntie Ran, I have a plan to avoid the possibility you mentioned. Xiao Ruoran looked at him curiously. He twisted his mouth and said shamelessly, help me take over the company and support me. Wen Qing agreed with this method. I think what Xiao Chen said is right. When the time comes, the company's account will be managed by you, and the bank card will also be yours. You will know every expense of his. Xiao Ruoran tapped her bestie on the head and said, you big-headed bastard, can't you see that this guy wants me to be his free labor? Then she tapped Chen Chen on the head again, but the force was much lighter than when she tapped her best friend. Can you be more ambitious and responsible? It's not good to think about getting something for nothing every day. But Chen Chen, who had been reborn, just wanted to lie down and didn't want to suffer at all. Auntie Ran, I have had a bad body since I was a child. I am only suitable for eating soft rice. Seeing that he couldn't make any sense at all, Xiao Ruoran felt helpless. He doesn't want to suffer, but I can't force him. If Sister Rong knew you had this idea, she would definitely give you a good beating. With no other options, he could only move his mother out, although that was of no use. Chen Chen, who was a fence-sitter, immediately said, my mother is not as effective as you in talking. Filial piety, true filial piety, Chen Chen, you really are filial piety when you speak. Xiao Ruoran buried her face in the booth, she was under his control. Any random words can make her happy and make her bow her head and compromise. Having succeeded in his little trick, Chen Chen reached for the wine glass on the booth again. There was still a sip left, which he couldn't waste. Everyone knows Sima Zhao's intention. You just want to drink, you just want to lick the cup. Let us drink and sing, what is life? Without Aunt Ran's obstruction, Chen Chen and Wen Qing drank as much as they wanted, 555, 666. Xiao Ruoran, who was watching from the side, gritted her teeth and said, you little bastard, you don't even want to drink with your aunt. He got mad at me and said he wouldn't stay with me unless I compensated him. I don't want to be with you. He drank alone, his eyes accidentally glanced in a certain direction, and his expression was startled. That girl looks so familiar, like. He glanced at Chen Chen who was still drinking, and wanted to say, you often accompanied the girl with other boys some time ago. As soon as this dangerous thought came to mind, he quickly shook his head to suppress it. No, if this kid knew about this, given his character, he would definitely rush up and fight with me. I guess I'll feel uncomfortable for a long time after the fight. Although this guy seems heartless usually, he is actually a man of sentiment when it comes to certain things. Especially something like this that could make him lose face. After considering for a moment, I decided not to tell him. But in the future, he must be kept away from such fickle girls, as he cannot control her. While she was still thinking hard about how to persuade Chen Chen to stay away from such girls, Xiao Shui over there also noticed Chen Chen. Seeing him toasting happily with another woman, she felt extremely angry. Last time, he left with Ji Yuyanxi in front of him at the KTV. He didn't contact me for nearly a month, not even a message. She had originally thought that if Chen Chen could take the initiative to apologize to her, she would forgive him. Unexpectedly, he was drinking with another woman in the bar. The fact that the woman drinking with him was not Ji Yuyanxi meant that the two of them had not reconciled. Maybe it was Ji Yuyanxi who rejected him that day. Come to think of it, although the Chen group is huge, there is still a big gap compared to Ji Yuyanxi's family. They have all graduated and are heading for a bigger stage. He is a genius student himself, so it is normal that he looks down on her. Chapter 17 Chen Chen is the only weak spot in Xiao Ruoran's body, 2 chapters combined into one. Chen Chen, who is she? The scolding voice interrupted Chen Chen's interest in drinking. Wen Qing glanced at the person who came with curiosity, a gossipy look on her pretty face. The girl just called out Chen Chen in a bad tone. There's something interesting to watch. Xiao Ruoran covered his eyes as if he had a headache. What he feared was coming true. Chen Chen leaned back and shook the wine glass in his hand. She is my friend, what's the problem? What have you been doing lately? I'm busy. Why didn't you send me any message? Busy. Then accompany me over there for a drink. I have something to tell you. I can't get away. You did it on purpose. I really have nothing to do with Zhang Yu. Whoever you are related to has nothing to do with me. Xiao Shui. He doesn't care about his contact with other men? For a moment, her brain was a little slow to react. The plot was not right. She didn't react, but her best friend Zhao Qingyu did. He suddenly stepped forward, pointed at Chen Chen's nose and scolded, Chen Chen, you are a scumbag. Shui did so much, but in the end she got this fate. I really feel sorry for her. Do you know that Shui applied to Shenzhen University because of you? Facing the sudden accusation, Chen Chen remained unmoved and said calmly, it is Xiao Shui's freedom to fill in the form. It has nothing to do with me. It's not that he cleared himself, but he never asked her to fill out the form with him. She was the one who asked where she had applied. Xiao Shui's eyelashes trembled. Chen Chen, how can you say such a thing? Chen Chen said casually, there is nothing I can't say, not to mention that this is what's in my heart. From your heart? You don't. The 3 words, I like you, were stuck in her throat. She had already begun to doubt herself, afraid that if she said it, there would be no turning back. Shui, you don't have to be sad for this kind of person. He is not worthy of your love at all. Zhao Qingyu stared at him angrily. Qingyu is right, this kind of person doesn't deserve your love. A young man in a suit and tie walked over, his eyes full of hostility. It looks like a fish from Xiao Shui's pond, a big-headed one at that. Otherwise Xiao Shui wouldn't have come to the bar to drink with him. As soon as he came over, he set his eyes on Xiao Ruoran and Wenqing, with 2 rays of light flashing in his eyes. The long legs in black stockings almost blinded his eyes. The woman in front of him was more attractive than most women he had seen, the best of the best. After noticing his aggressive gaze, both of them looked a little angry. This kind of person has no manners at all. Chen Chen looked at him and had no impression of this person. It should be the fish that Xiao Shui caught outside. I have never seen it once, so it is hidden quite deeply. If she hadn't seen me drinking with Sister Wen, she probably wouldn't have shown up today and would have run out the back door long ago. My friend, it's not good to drink with other girls behind the back of the person you like. Chen Chen would never be polite to such self-righteous people. If your eyes are not good, just donate them. You dare to scold me. As the prince of this bar, how can he survive if he is scolded in his own territory and the news gets out? Chen Chen shook his head slightly. He clearly didn't say a single dirty word. He felt like he was scolding him, and there was a hint of pity in his eyes. You are not only blind, but also deaf. Poor child, you have such a terrible disease at such a young age. Hearing this, Guo Chanlin, the prince of the bar, turned completely black. Little brother, do you know what you are talking about? I know. What's the problem? Har har, you're good. As his voice fell, a group of people rushed out from the side. This bar belongs to me, can you understand that? Chen Chen glanced at him, who was so arrogant, and said word by word, I don't quite understand. At this time, Xiao Shui saw that the situation was not right. Why was a fight about to start? She hurriedly said, Brother Guo, please let these people go. Don't be like this. We are all friends. Zhao Qingyu wanted to defend her best friend again. Shui, it's already this time, and you're still thinking about this scumbag. The commotion here attracted the attention of everyone around. Isn't that the young master of the Guo family? Does he look like he wants to fight? That guy is used to bullying others. He probably wants to show off in front of the 2 beautiful women in black stockings sitting there. But the guy sitting there is unlucky. So many people are bullying him. There's nothing we can do about it. This bar is Guo Chanlin's territory. With Zhao Qingyu's help, Guo Chanlin knew that his chance had come. Shui, Qingyu is right. It's better to kick this scumbag out, so that he won't harm other girls here. Damn it, this guy is just a little handsome, but he actually has 2 such beautiful girls drinking with him. It's too much of an eyesore for him to keep them in the bar. Give him back his money and get him out, he ordered the people around him. He kept taking advantage of his power to bully others and humiliate them continuously. With a snap, the wine glass in Xiao Ruoran's hand shattered to the ground. Her eyes were as cold as ice. She slowly stood up, pointed at Zhao Qingyu and said angrily, "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will tear your mouth apart." Then he walked in front of Guo Changlin. The powerful aura forced Guo Changlin to instinctively take 2 steps back. Filled with anger, Xiao Ruoran didn't care about anything else and started with a slap. The loud slap shocked everyone present. This woman was so brave. This was her territory. Even Chen Chen and Wen Qing were stunned. Is this still Xiao Ruoran, who always had a soft personality and could be bullied by anyone? As the saying goes, a dragon has a reverse scale, and if you touch it, you will die. And Chen Chen is the only weak spot in Xiao Ruoran's body. My Xiao Chen is not a scumbag, and it is not your turn to teach him a lesson. Guo Changlin was furious after being slapped in front of everyone. Bitch, you dare to hit me? Hit back with your backhand. Chen Chen, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed, kicked forward. His physical fitness was different after being strengthened. One kick takes you several meters away, it feels so good. The force of the kick really stunned Guo Changlin. He was unable to get up for a long time and felt like all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. Brother, do you have the nerve to attack a girl? If you really want to spar with me, spar with me. Chen Chen walked forward hypocritically and helped him up. Just casually throw it on a booth, it looks much more beautiful. Then he said to the others, it's just a discussion. Everyone should drink and have fun. Don't ruin everyone's fun. Judging from his nonchalant words, it was as if he was not the one who hit someone just now. As his hand was on Guo Changlin's shoulder, he dared not make a sound at this moment. The strength of this living devil is so incredible that I could see how weak I was after that kick just now. I was just thinking about having a friendly exchange with Guo Changlin when I suddenly felt a pain in my ear. It turned out that it was Aunt Ran who grabbed his ear and said, Xiao Chen, how many times have I told you not to fight? Why are you so disobedient? The force of that kick just now made her break out in a cold sweat. What if she really kicked the person to death? She would end up in jail. Seeing that Aunt Ran was angry, he quickly released the hand that was holding down Guo Changlin, and held Aunt Ran's jade hand in his hand and kneaded it. If someone wants to bully my aunt, I definitely can't just stand by and watch. I have to protect you, aunt, at the risk of my life. A few nice words quickly saved the situation, and Xiao Ruoran's tense expression relaxed. You little bastard, why are you talking so nicely? Bar, Xiao Ruoran, how can you be so shameless? This guy fooled you away with just a few nice words. Wen Qing on the side also tried to smooth things over. Xiao Chen is worried about you. If he hadn't stopped you, you would have been slapped. Then she stood up and made a phone call, saying that if anyone dared to hurt her Ruoran, there was no need to close the deal today. Not long after, a middle-aged man came hurriedly. After seeing who was coming, Guo Changlin, who was lying on the sofa, changed his expression drastically and exclaimed, Dad. The person who came was the boss behind the bar, Guo Haipeng. Miss Wen, I am a fool and have offended you. Please forgive me. As he said that, he walked over and slapped his son who was lying on the booth. You bastard, who gave you the courage? Guo Haipeng, who was already confused, became even more confused. What happened? Why did his father come and slap him in the face? Wen Qing looked at Xiao Shui and the other person and said indifferently, Boss Guo, my friends and I were drinking here, and these 2 women and your son came over and humiliated us for no reason, and they even kicked us out. Guo Haipeng looked even uglier as his boss's daughter was bullied in his own place. If Premier Wen knew about this, he would be in big trouble. He turned around and was about to yell at Xiao Shui and the other 2, you. He just uttered 2 words and then immediately took them back. He had seen Xiao Shui before. The last time he and President Wen had dinner outside, this girl was following Xiao Anbang. This put him in a difficult position, as Xiao Anbang's power was no less than that of Premier Wen, and he could not afford to offend either side. So he started brainstorming, pointed at Zhao Qingyu and asked vaguely, Miss Wen, did she deliberately speak ill of you? At this moment he prayed in his heart, and saw Wen Qing nodded slightly. He suddenly became alert and said, Miss, the bar is a public place. It is wrong to speak ill of others. I beg you to leave now. We will refund your fees in full. Zhao Qingyu was not a fool. Just based on the slap Guo Haipeng had just given her, she knew that this man was the real owner of the bar. She definitely couldn't afford to offend such a person, so she could only place her hopes on her best friend. Xiao Shui's face was gloomy. She felt that she had lost all face today. Not only was she humiliated by Chen Chen, but even her best friend was kicked out of the bar in front of her. Her feelings were really wasted. A man like this was not worthy of her efforts. But my father said that he pushed for an investment of 30 million in order to please him. Could it be that he wanted to take back the initiative in this relationship and hook me in this way? Just like myself back then, being nice to him but also acting like I was reluctant. Yes, that must be the case. Thinking of what her father said, she became more determined. I went out drinking with another man today, and he must still be angry. Wait some time and talk to him again. At worst, I can give him some more tangible rewards, which will definitely make him come back to me. She has a strong desire to conquer a man like Chen Chen who has no characteristics of a dog licker. What's more, he conquered Jiu Yunxi in a very short time, which made her desire to conquer even stronger. Chapter 18. Why do I feel like I have become Aunt Ran's toy? Chen Chen returned home and lay on the sofa, reeking of alcohol. He crossed his legs on the table and pointed his head towards the air vent of the air conditioner. The cool breeze made him feel very proud, and his two soft arms were comfortably spread at the head of the sofa. In summer, you have to have a leather sofa. Those furry leather sofas are bullshit. They are uncomfortable to sleep on as long as they are wet with sweat. Xiao Ruoran, who came out of the shower in pajamas, sat down next to him and hit him on the forehead. You little brat, you're going to die. How many times have I told you not to blow in front of the air conditioner? What if you catch a cold? As he said that, he grabbed his arm and tried to change his position. However, my strength was limited, and someone deliberately didn't want to get up, so I couldn't get him to get up after pulling for a long time. She took a deep breath and twisted two fingers. Sensing something was wrong, Chen Chen immediately stood up and leaned against the end away from the air conditioner. But Xiao Ruoran still attacked him, but he was reluctant to use too much force and just pinched him lightly. Feeling disadvantaged, Chen Chen's body softened and he fell limply on Aunt Ran's fragrant body. Auntie Ran, you have no moral principles and almost strangled me to death. Xiao Ruoran lovingly rubbed the place where he had just pinched her. Go take a shower quickly, you stink. Someone made a circle like a slut and put his stinky feet that hadn't been washed for a day directly into Aunt Ran's nose. The unsuspecting Xiao Ruoran's eyes widened and her rosy little face changed color to green. Vomit. Xiao Chen. You little rascal, if you dare to act weird like this, I'll beat you to death. As soon as someone raised his hand, he disappeared. Xiao Ruoran wiped her nose with disdain after being kicked by Chen Chen's foot, and sniffed her hand shyly. You little rascal, you only know how to bully your aunt. Take a warm shower and feel refreshed. Without wiping off the water droplets on his body, he walked out wearing a pair of slippers that were not a pair. He shook his wet hair casually. A real man never uses a hair dryer. After shaking it for a few times, Xiao Ruoran, with a sullen face, pushed her back into the shower room and said, blow your hair. When other people blow dry their hair, they face forward, but he did it differently, he faced away. Xiao Ruoran's eyes were soft, and she glanced at the side of his face, and found that he didn't open his eyes at all. Blow dry his hair gently. I also massaged both of his ears. Chen Chen, with his back turned, sniffed the faint fragrance on Aunt Ran's body. Thinking that I will be going to Shenzhen soon, I feel a little sad. Aunt, I don't want to go to Shenzhen anymore. What nonsense are you talking about? Chen Chen squeezed closer to her, put his mouth next to her ear, and blew hot air into her ears. I'm alone in a strange city, I will miss you. Xiao Ruoran's eyes were startled, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Her beautiful big eyes were filled with mist, and the movements of her hands became slow. Restraining the throbbing emotions in her heart, she pursed her rosy lips and said, silly boy, I will miss you too, but you still have to go to college. Seeing the fish taking the bait, Chen Chen, who was not interested in the wine, blew his breath into her ear again. Then auntie, come with me to Shenzhen. Xiao Ruoran, whose ears were tickled by the wind, lowered her eyes and bit his shoulder gently. I finally sent you away, my ancestor. I want to relax for a few days. Seeing that there was something going on, he held her chin with both hands and asked, so, do you want to take a few days off? Xiao Ruoran put down the hair dryer in his hand and took him back to his room. She opened the refrigerator at home, took out a box of ice cream and handed it to him. When you grow up, you have to learn to live on your own. You can't always rely on your aunt to accompany you. Bang! Chen Chen's world collapsed. You are so good, Xiao Ruoran, you won't be responsible for flirting with me in the last life, right? Since you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. He was just angrily saying, if you don't accompany me, there are plenty of people who will. I've been dating 8 or 10 girls since the beginning of the school year. Seeing that he was a little angry, Xiao Ruoran rubbed his head and said, Xiao Chen has grown up. I understand your desire to fall in love, but you can't just find someone casually. For example, the girl at the bar last time is definitely not a good match for you too. Chen Chen lay helplessly on her soft big bed and pulled sheer liang quilt to cover his head. The lingering fragrance went straight into his nostrils, and he rolled back and forth on the bed, trying to suppress his irritability. Xiao Ruoran is a woman who has ideas but no courage, and she even denies the voice of her heart over and over again. She was running away, pushing herself away. If that's the case, then why does she always stay by his side, and why doesn't she leave after being so jealous? Xiao Ruoran, you are really something. If you have the guts, just hide from me for the rest of your life. I argued with her over and over again in my mind before I calmed down. I suppressed all the other bold ideas in my mind. I couldn't take too big a step when dealing with such a traditional woman. Besides, his mother was still at home. If he showed any signs of trouble now, Xiao Ruoran would probably want to die. Stinky boy, it's almost 11 o'clock, why don't you go home and sleep? Chen Chen stared angrily at this irresponsible woman and said, I'm not leaving. I'll sleep here with you tonight. Knowing that he was still angry with her, Xiao Ruoran changed her usual attitude. He took out 2 quilts from the cupboard and threw them on the ground beside the bed, then made a simple bed on the floor. He took out his cell phone and called Chen Yueron, telling her that her son would sleep on the floor at home today. After arranging everything, he lay on his side on the mat and waved to Chen Chen, Xiao Chen, good night. Chen Chen watched the whole process in amazement. Who the hell is controlling whom here? Why does he feel like Aunt Ran's toy? He stroked his forehead and sighed. Ever since he knew that Aunt Ran liked him, his whole mentality changed and his emotions were easily shaken. For a playboy like him, I guess only Aunt Ran can make him like this. If it was a different woman, it would have been a different person long ago. Sigma men never accept being left hanging. Xiao Ruoran, just bully me, humph. He buried his head in the pillow that was filled with the fresh scent of shampoo, and his calves rose and fell in indignation. 10 minutes later, I couldn't fall asleep. 30 minutes later, I still couldn't fall asleep. An hour later, I still couldn't fall asleep. The tough guy burst into tears. He drank too much in the evening and was angry with Xiao Ruoran again. The wine in my stomach is churning and making me feel uncomfortable. Xiao Ruoran, lying on the floor, was chattering his fingers back and forth under the quilt. Thinking about Chen Chen's words, her long eyelashes trembled. It was clearly him who bullied me, and now I am in a difficult position. I really don't know why he is always like this. He ignores me when he has a girlfriend, but sticks to me again after we break up. She also has emotions and can't bear the pressure of going back and forth. It was because she didn't want to go to Chen Chen that she was obviously afraid that he would bring back a new girlfriend. She really wouldn't know how to face him then. Tears of shame hung in the corners of my eyes. A ray of moonlight crept quietly through the gap in the curtains and shone on the floor between the two people. Chen Chen, who had been tossing and turning, sat up angrily and stared at Xiao Ruoran, who was pretending to be asleep beside him. He made up his mind, picked up the summer quilt and slept on the mat she had prepared. Sleeping with someone next to you really helps with sleep, and Chen Chen soon fell into a peaceful dream. Xiao Ruoran opened her sleepy eyes and helped him to tighten the loose summer quilt. Her pretty blushing face leaned towards his head and blew hot air towards the side of his face. I really can't stand you. I didn't say I wouldn't go to Chen Chen. You should at least give me some time to prepare myself mentally. My life has been ruined by you. Tell me, did I owe you a life in my previous life? I was eaten alive by you, kid. But, I have to tell you in advance that if you dare to date some questionable women in front of me, don't blame me for getting angry. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as your consent. Good night, little bastard. Chapter 19 is the publishing house you and your friend found legitimate. Early the next morning. The yellowed curtains announced today's weather conditions. Chen Chen sat up in a daze and clapped his hands, but nothing was left. Aunt Ran, are you getting up so early? He didn't care whose shoes were beside the bed, he just walked on them. I opened the door and stretched lazily in the cool corridor. He pressed his lazy palm against the door of his house, applying a little force. With a crackling sound, the vision became much brighter. Xiao Ruoran, who was cooking in the kitchen, heard the sound of the door opening and leaned forward slightly. Xiao Chen, wash up first, breakfast will be ready soon. Chen Chen, rubbing his eyelids, walked into the kitchen, rested his chin on Aunt Ran's shoulder, and murmured, Aunt Ran, what delicious food have you made? Your favorite egg fried rice. The two of them chose to forget what happened yesterday. Chen Chen patted her shoulder and sighed, it would be great if I could eat Aunt Ran's egg fried rice every day in the future. Xiao Ruoran rubbed the back of her hand on the tip of his nose, and the cherry blossom scented moisturizer seeped into his nasal cavity. Stinky boy, I don't want to be your babysitter every day. Okay, stop making trouble and go wash up. The sound of running water in the bathroom continued. Chen Chen picked up his mother's or Aunt Ran's facial cleanser and applied it on his face, then patted himself on the refreshing water. Their whole person looks much cleaner. At the dinner table, Xiao Ruoran's soft eyes fell on Chen Chen's feet. Stinky boy, you are wearing my aunt's slippers. What's yours is mine, so why should we make such a distinction? He retorted shamelessly. Xiao Ruoran, who was already angry early in the morning, knocked him down on the sofa and said, what belongs to me is still my aunt's. Don't even think about taking it away and giving it to another woman. Chen Chen, who was hit dumb, stared blankly at Aunt Ran, who had a sullen face, and the depression in his heart rose rapidly. What does this have to do with anything? How could a good person use his head to hit others? Xiao Ruoran, I think you have ulterior motives when you said this. Little coward. After finishing her meal, she left all the housework to Aunt Ran, picked up the Land Rover keys and ran away. Xiao Ruoran, who stayed where she was, stared at his back and spat, whoever marries you in the future will be unlucky. You are so lazy that you don't even do any housework. After saying this, her little face flushed. Anyway, she won to be the unlucky one. After arriving at the company, Chen Chen went straight to his mother's office. Chen Yuerong, who was reading the documents, raised her eyebrows the moment she saw Howdy. Where did the wind bring my ancestor here? Chen Chen, holding something in his arms, sat unscrupulously on the desk in front of his mother. How far has your cooperation with Mr. Xiao progressed? Chen Yuerong stood up and helped him tidy up his messy clothes, and jokingly said, why? You are very concerned about this investment. It was me who persuaded you to invest, so I will definitely take responsibility to the end. Hey, when did my son become so responsible? Chen Chen's face darkened. I have always been responsible, okay. Chen Yuerong pinched his cheek and asked him to sit in his seat. Report to Mr. Chen, the project has been basically implemented and most of the bookstores have been put into use. I pushed my mother's hand away angrily. I am an adult now, why is she still treating me like a child? Since most of the bookstores have been put into use, it is necessary to take some action here as well. I must help my mother seize the initiative, otherwise that bachelor named Xiao will definitely walk around in front of my mother. You ugly guy with evil intentions wants to be his stepfather. Just dream on. He took out a book from his pocket and placed it in front of his mother. How about this? With its gorgeous cover and exaggerated title, Chen Yuerong murmured uncertainly, is this a martial arts novel? It's not martial arts, it's fantasy. Chen Chen explained to his mother, it can be regarded as a derivative of martial arts. Anyway, it is a very popular online novel at present. The audience is very wide, from 80-year-old grandfathers in wheelchairs to hungry babies. Chen Yuerong thought what he said was very funny, but in order to protect her son's ambition, she still listened to him patiently. Then he expressed his own opinion, is this the counter you wanted to sell before? Chen Chen crossed his legs proudly. Chen Yuerong hesitated for a moment, then said, since you can sell it, they can sell it too. Her words were very straightforward, implying that she had no competitiveness. Chen Chen was waiting for his mother to say this. It was now his turn to act smart. They can't sell this book. Chen Yuerong still remains skeptical. There are not many exclusively licensed books on the market, and most of them are from leading companies. Chen Chen simply got straight to the point, I have the exclusive authorization for this book. If I don't let them sell it, they naturally can't sell it. Although the anti-theft system in this era is terrible, it is still capable of preventing regular bookstores. Where did you get the exclusive authorization? I worked with others. Although he is the author of the book, he certainly cannot admit it. After all, some of the content in it is disgusting. Chen Ruoran didn't want to undermine her son's self-confidence, so she kept some words to herself. For example, can the quality of the book be compared with those popular books, and is it competitive? If Chen Chen knew what his mother was thinking, he would definitely slam the table and say, "I'll definitely beat her. Just look at this exquisite cover and this straightforward title." Young people of this era who have never seen the world and are stuck in school cannot resist it. By the way, Mom, this is a single volume. The rest has not been printed yet. My friend and I are relatively poor, and we were able to produce only 1,000 copies of this single volume. I asked someone to mail it to the downstairs of the company. Let's deal with these first. School is about to start. These 1,000 books should be placed in the bookstore near the commercial street. It should be placed in a conspicuous place. Send some people to advertise it at the door. The point is to get the word out to students. Then he took out a few exquisite color paintings, coughed twice, and handed them to my mother. There's a picture of this in every book. When the time comes, take it out and stick it on the cover of the book. Chen Ruoran's cheeks flushed as she took the beautiful picture. She bit her lip and looked at her son, questioning, "Is the publishing house you and your friend found legitimate?" Chen Chen glanced at the two-dimensional beauty picture and frowned. It should be formal. There are many publishing houses in this era, and as long as they don't break the law, they are quite formal. Anyway, he had read a lot of irregular books with publishers' marks on them back then. The publishing house he found was in Shenzhen and was quite famous. Mainly publishing novels. As long as you are willing to spend money, there will basically be people willing to publish your work. The premise is that the content is not illegal or in violation of regulations. The editor there has been communicating with him during this period and feels that his novel has great potential. I wanted to publish it on his website, but he refused. The current website's anti-theft system is too poor, so it is better to get the first wave of traffic offline. Most importantly, his focus is now on physical publishing houses, and he wants to help his mother gain market share first. Anyone can build a novel website, why must it be someone else? As an internet addict for 20 years, coupled with an incredible memory, his energy is beyond imagination. Chapter 21 Day She Will Betray You, 2 chapters in 1. City Center. Fatty Jiang's supermarket. Chen Chen sat at the door of his house with a swagger, eating free ice cream. When it comes to getting rich, one must not forget one's brothers, because they are the brothers who once risked their lives for one another. During the 3 years of skipping classes in high school, Wan was always called the fat kid. Whenever I was short of money, the fat guy would always lend a helping hand. He would even let himself eat meat while eating cold, steamed buns. In addition, he owed a huge sum of money to a close friend, and he had been in debt for a long time, which made him feel very uneasy. I have to say, the free ice cream tastes delicious when you lick it, and the more you lick it, the more you enjoy it. It was a hot day, but Jiang Wenming's hair stood on end and his feet felt cold when someone stared at him. I don't know what's wrong with this bastard Chen Chen today. Not only did he come to visit me without saying hello, he also asked me how much savings I have. This made him very anxious. How much savings could a college student like him have? At most, it's just a little money to play games in an internet cafe. He smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Chen, you who drive a Land Rover must be richer than me. I am just an ordinary citizen. Stop teasing me, fatty, and tell me the truth." Jiang Wenming lowered his head and counted with his fingers, his feet rubbing against the ground with a rustling sound. After weighing the pros and cons, he said, 1,000. Fatty. 1,005. Aha. 2,000. 3,000, no more. Chen Chen nodded with satisfaction. It was already impressive for a college student in this era to save 3,000. Chen Chen. You son of a bitch, did you ask me to come here to pay me back? A loud voice came from the street, and Chen Chen's eyes went dark when he heard it. Damn, this woman, why does her voice sound like a huge bell? He turned around with a sullen face. You Chen Chen, can you be more ladylike? It's inappropriate to yell like that. The visitor also said with a sullen face, can you return my New Year's money? Half a year has passed. Yu Chen Chen, who was sitting on a stone pier, casually lifted the black hair hanging from her forehead, and her pretty face was fully presented to the person in front of her. The young appearance of his old friend appeared in Chen Chen's eyes. The corners of his eyes softened unconsciously, and the hand holding the ice cream paused in the air. The sun was scorching that year, and so was my heart. My friend, I suddenly realized that you were also very pretty when you were young. He is not exaggerating. Although Yu Chen looks a little immature now. But it is not difficult to tell that she is a beauty through her regular facial features. The most eye-catching thing is in front of her, which is more attractive than Aunt Ran and the others. He has met countless people in later generations, but the only ones who can be compared with the person in front of him are on the website. Yu Chen rolled her eyes at him, thinking that he didn't want to pay back the money. If you don't want to pay it back, forget it. I don't expect you to pay it back anyway. I guess you've already treated Xiao Shui to a drink. Hey, why do you talk like that? Chen Chen looked at her with dissatisfaction. She snorted disdainfully and poked the fat man. Do you think he has been hanging out in bars with Xiao Shui since the holiday? The fat man, who was kind-hearted, quickly betrayed his brother and was very quick-witted. Chen Chen was so angry that he wanted to slap him in the face, thinking he was a traitor. Okay, I know your little tricks. You just want to trick Xiao Shui into having sex with you. All men are like this, I can understand. Yu Chen, who turned into an understanding sister, took the ice cream handed over by the fat man and started to eat it openly, with a look of "I understand everything" written all over her eyes. Chen Chen, feeling like he was starting to grow brains again, swallowed the ice cream in his hand in one gulp, smacking his teeth because it was so cold. He opened his mouth and blew into the air, then relaxed for a while. You can understand shit, Buddy is so handsome, how can he be in need of a girl to warm his bed? In response to his big talk, Yu Chen just smiled and said nothing. Although he really disliked Xiao Shui, he had to admit that except for Ji Yunxi, no one in the entire school could surpass her in terms of appearance and temperament. Why does she feel so sarcastic when she laughs? Chen Chen is a little unconvinced. We have known each other for so long, you don't believe me? This is when the role of a good brother comes into play. Jiang Wenming leaned over with an ice cream in his hand and said, I know several girls who like brother Chen. Chen Chen nodded in satisfaction, his mouth unconsciously tilted to one side. At critical moments, we still have to be good brothers. Yu Chen sighed and couldn't help but spoil the show, but you only like Ji Yunxi and Xiao Shui, and you can't think of the others. So, how many people like you has nothing to do with who you want to sleep with? Chen Chen's old face darkened again. When he was in love before, he just used physical force and biting, but he never slept with anyone. And how can a young girl like you speak so bluntly? Yu Chen, can you please stop thinking of people in such a vulgar way? Hypocritical. Yu Chen tugged at her clothes and said, if you could look away a little, I might believe your lies. Chen Chen's old face turned red when he was exposed. It is human nature to be greedy for food and sex. It is just instinct. It has nothing to do with his noble character. Seeing how obedient he was, Yu Chen curled her lips and said, you asked me to come here today just to feast your eyes. If that's all, I'd better just give you a photo and hang it on the wall of your room so you can see it when you look up. How could she say such a vicious word? Chen Chen wanted to say something to her, but he was eventually defeated by his strong heart. What photo? I went out for some time ago and took some photos. They were quite revealing. Chen Chen took 2 breaths of cold air. If the fat man hadn't been sitting next to him, he would have asked for one. After thinking it over, he decided to save face first. Let's put the photo issue aside for now. I asked you to come here today because of something very important. She looked at Chen Chen in confusion. Does this guy have anything else to do besides picking up girls and drinking? Before she could ask, he went straight to the point. How much savings do you have? Yu Chen bared her teeth, swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth, and quickly organized her words. You bastard, do you really want to pick up girls? And you're using my money to pick up girls. The fat man added, he also wants to take my savings. Hearing this, Yu Chen became even angrier. Chen, to be honest, a woman like Xiao Shui is not suitable for you at all. She is a bottomless pit, and you can't satisfy her. I know your temper. You won't turn back until you hit the wall, so I never tried to persuade you before. But now you have graduated and are about to start a new life. You will meet better girls. There are many girls prettier than him, and Ji Yuyanxi also wants to get back together with you, so why do you have to keep targeting Xiao Shui? I admit that she can dress up, speak sweet words to make you happy, and probably does a good job, but she doesn't really like you at all, and she will betray you one day. A bunch of angry words hit Chen Chen's head, shocking him. There was one sentence that shocked him: she will betray you. Convinced, he gave her a thumbs up and said, "Sister Yu is really a detective. You are really good at judging people." Yu Chen said so much in one breath, her face flushed red. "What do you mean it's accurate? Did you listen to me?" Chen Chen stood up and walked to her side, patting her head gently. "Since I broke up with Xiao Shui, I haven't had any weird thoughts about her. The reason I was willing to go out and drink with her was simply to be an ordinary friend. After all, we broke up peacefully in the beginning. And every time I drink with her, I ask Fatty to come along. You can ask him if there's anything that's crossed the line." The fat man recalled carefully and said, "Brother Chen is always very silent when drinking. He never makes any other movements. He will leave with me after drinking and never stays with Xiao Shui for long." Jiang Wenming would not lie, and Chen Chen's eyes were also very sincere. Yu Qianqian's expression improved a little, and she snorted coldly, "I barely believe your lies, but why don't you come drink with me? We have been on vacation for such a long time and are about to go to Shenzhen, but I didn't even ask her to come out and play." Humph, in his heart, am I just a dispensable tool? Chen Chen saw through her thoughts and explained seriously, "I don't want to lead a good girl like you astray. The noises in the bar are not suitable for you. Besides, you said before the holiday that you would be busy. I feel embarrassed to bother you, Sister Yu." Yu Chen raised her head and looked at him, giving him an ultimatum: "Since we are good brothers, you have to take me out to play in the future, and you have to take me to the bar with you." Chen Chen smiled and nodded. The misunderstanding has been resolved, and there is business to discuss. "So, how much money do you have in savings?" Yu Chen frowned. "What savings can I have? I gave you all the New Year's money I saved in the past few years. I don't have much left." "Not many pieces. How many pieces?" Yu Chen. I no longer had the mood to eat ice cream, so I asked the fat guy to help me get a bottle of mineral water and took 2 big gulps. There is no trace of ladylikeness in her. My mom put the tuition and living expenses on the card together. After deducting the tuition, there was still 6,000 left. And I have $855 in my hand. That's all. Chen Chen smiled suddenly. What a simple girl, she is very reasonable. Fatty Jiang looked at Yu Chen in shock. Why did it feel like Sister Yu had given away all her belongings? After expressing her feelings to Yu Chen, she changed her look and rebuked Chen Chen. "You didn't want such a good girl in the first place, you are a complete scumbag." After drinking the water, Yu Chen muttered, "Don't even think about getting all of it. I can only give you half of it at most. I also want to try the university cafeteria. I can't give you all of it." Chen Chen waved to the two of them. After they came over, he put one arm around Yu Qianqian's neck and the other arm around the fat man. "Give your savings to me, and I will give you great wealth." The two men looked incredulous. It was just a loan of money, there was no need to trick their brothers like that. So they both said in unison, "We can only give you half." Chen Chen was very dissatisfied with this result and said shamelessly, "You can't tell scholars about this. You call this investment. Do you understand investment? Then invest half." Chen Chen wanted to continue fooling around. There's a saying in the book, you can't build anything without destroying something, you can't catch a wolf without sacrificing a child, and there's also that saying that if you try hard, a tram can turn into a motorcycle. All in is an art, you might as well invest all in it. The two were stunned when they heard this, but they were not fools. This guy in front of them had fooled them more than once. They may jump into the same pit 7 or 8 times, 8 or 9 times, but not more than 10 times. Unless this guy really has something urgent, he will never jump. The three of them were in a stalemate. No matter how Chen Chen promised, the two of them insisted on only investing half. Seeing that the two were determined, Chen Chen decided to zoom in and stare at the sun for a long time. His eyes turned red, tears dripped down his cheeks, and he murmured in pain, "I only have the heart to support the collapsing building, woo-woo." Jiang Wenming and Yu Chen looked at each other and said, "Brother, it's just a loan of money, why are you so sad?" At this point, if the two of them don't nod, this guy will probably hang on them and cry. There is no doubt about it, we have been brothers for many years, and with his character, he is definitely capable of doing it. Finally, Chen Chen reluctantly gave in. Okay, Mr. Movie King, I'll give it all to you. But let's make a deal in advance. After school starts, either you return some to me or I have to eat for free. It's okay for fat people, they don't have to contribute to living expenses. In order to prevent him from changing his mind, he hurried home, took out his piggy bank, and gave him the 3,000 yuan that was left over. Chen Chen said, "Send me your bank card number and I will transfer the money to you when I get back to the North District." 6,855, not a cent more. 6,000 will be fine. You can keep the other 855 for emergencies. I'll give it all to you, so you don't have to worry about it every day. Chen Chen. This sounds weird. By the way, you haven't told me what you want so much money for. Chen Chen showed a mysterious smile. Of course I will help you become rich. Chapter 21. You wear your wedding dress and watch the sea with me. Chen Chen, who had been lying at home for a few days, was playing with the calendar in his hand. According to the scribbles above, today is the temple fair in the towns near the North District. A large number of people will gather in one area. Xiao Chen, did you see my stockings when you were washing clothes yesterday? Xiao Ruoran pushed open his door in high heels, looking around his room. Considering the character of this little scoundrel, he shouldn't hide it from her. She had things to do yesterday and didn't have time to wash clothes, so she threw the stockings she took off into the porcelain basin in the bathroom. When I came back in the evening, I saw this lazy guy hanging clothes. I suddenly remembered this incident when I woke up this morning. I couldn't find the stockings I put there yesterday, so I came here to ask for an explanation. Chen Chen rolled his eyes at her and suppressed his disdain. I washed it for you and hung it on the balcony. Hearing this, she scratched her head in embarrassment. So kind? She had wronged this boy. Auntie Ran, tell me the truth, how long have those stockings of yours been dirty? The smell hit my head and almost made me vomit. He was telling the truth. Yesterday, he blocked his nose with toilet paper while washing clothes. The smell was too abstract. Xiao Ruoran's pretty face flushed when she was accused, and she stepped forward to cover his mouth slyly. I was quite busy the past few days, and the weather was so hot, I was busy running around, there must be some smell. Chen Chen rolled his eyes. You call that a little bit? That's a big deal. I will never wash that thing for you again. You don't even know how dark the bubbles of detergent are. I was thinking about disinfecting you. Stop talking, you little brat. Do you really want to embarrass me? As she was talking, she started to feel aggrieved and pouted. I used to wash your stinky socks every day and never scolded you. But now you have learned to scold me. Oh, that seems to be what you are saying. Chen Chen, who felt guilty, immediately changed his expression. Hey, auntie, I was wrong. From now on, I will wash your stockings. Humph, who would need you to wash it? You're so lazy that you'd probably just put it in the water and fish it out a few times. Seeing that she didn't believe in his craftsmanship, he took Aunt Ran to the balcony, pointed at the hanging clothes and said, check, they are all rubbed several times by hand. Xiao Ruoran checked it and found that it was indeed clean. They were all hand-washed, which made people look up to Chen Chen. Why are you so diligent lately? Chen Chen raised his head and said, I have always been very diligent. Do you have any unwashed clothes? There is a pair of white shoes under the bed in the room, and inside the shoes is a pair of socks. Chen Chen took back the pair of white socks according to her instructions. He rubbed his hands in front of her, muttering, I wear them all day, so the socks I put aside don't smell that bad. Why do the stockings stink so badly? Xiao Ruoran squatted beside him and twisted his ear. What do you mean it's not that smelly? It's not smelly at all, okay. Silk stockings are made of chemical fiber materials, which have poor water absorption capacity, so they smell bad. Chen Chen thought for a moment and silently memoized the chemical fiber material. He wrung out the socks in his hand, sniffed them, and found they were clean, so he casually threw them into the stunned Xiao Ruoran's hands. Xiao Ruoran, who was hanging socks on the balcony, murmured softly, is this brat going to have any weird habits? Chen Chen, who was watching TV on the sofa, received a phone call, put on his sun protection clothes and was about to leave. Xiao Ruoran was bored at home and wanted to see what this boy was busy with recently, so he followed him. Chen Chen, who was sitting in the driver's seat, looked at Aunt Ran in the passenger seat and said earnestly, you should go home and rest. It's very hot outside. Don't let yourself get tanned. Xiao Ruoran crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes slightly. You are so sneaky all day long, what do you want to do outside? She now suspected that this boy was picking up girls outside her home without her knowledge and would not let her follow him. Humph, she insisted on following me today. What can I do? I'm sure I can make money and pick up girls. You make money? How do you do it? Today is a temple fair, let's set up a stall to sell books. Xiao Ruoran couldn't help but laughed with his hands covering his mouth. His laughter was so trembling that it dazzled someone. Setting up a stall to sell books, it's a pity that a fool like you could come up with this idea. You won't make much money. She laughed for a while, then said, people go to temple fairs for fun. You've been to temple fairs with me before. How many people buy books? You only make a small fortune by setting up a stall for a whole day. Seeing her smile so happily, Chen Chen raised the corner of his mouth. Let's make a bet. Although she lost the bet last time, she felt it was purely a matter of luck. Making money is different from driving. It is extremely difficult to get others to willingly pay for those low-quality books sold on the street stalls. What's more, based on my experience of visiting temple fairs a few times before, I saw a lot of people eating, drinking and having fun, but I rarely saw anyone buying books. After thinking for a moment, he asked, what do you want to bet on? The fish took the bait, and Chen Chen grinned, I bet you can wear a wedding dress once. If I can earn 5,000 yuan, you will wear your wedding dress and watch the sea with me. If not, I will never date a girl of questionable character again. The beads on his abacus made a crackling sound and flew all over Xiao Ruoran's face. A spark of crystal flashed across Xiao Ruoran's eyes, her long eyelashes drooped slightly, and her 10 fingers twisted together and fought. Why do you want your aunt to wear a wedding dress? The twisted voice revealed the throbbing in her heart. Chen Chen, who had already thought of an excuse, blinked his eyes and said, because some people say that wearing a wedding dress is the most beautiful moment in a woman's life. I want to see the most beautiful Aunt Ran. Xiao Ruoran's heart trembled, and her throat felt itchy. Okay, Auntie promises you. But you have to keep your word. If you lose, you won't be able to hang out with those questionable women anymore. Chen Chen hooked his fingers with her. The low mountains and hills outside the car window rose and fell one after another, and the villain in Xiao Ruoran's heart was kicking the ball back and forth. A villain said, I am Xiao Chen's aunt, the aunt who watched him grow up. How can I accompany him to watch the sea in a wedding dress? If Sister Rong knew about this, and if the neighbors knew about it, how would she and Sister Rong live their lives in the future, and Xiao Chen would be scolded to death. Another villain said that it was okay, he couldn't win the bet, and how could anyone go to a place like a temple fair to buy books? The scorching sun burned the asphalt road, and spots of light flickered in Xiao Ruoran's eyes. She herself couldn't understand why she agreed to the bet so quickly. It's not clear whether I want him to win or lose. She didn't dare to admit, nor did she want to admit, the excuses in her heart. The sunlight was hot and bright, but it seemed a little dim and cold in her eyes. There are too many rules and regulations for so-called justice, and our eye sockets are too small to accommodate them all. Just like the spots of sunlight scattered on the asphalt road, all she could see was a tiny glimpse. Chen Chen, who was sitting in the driver's seat, put on sunglasses on his own initiative. No matter how bright or dazzling the sunlight outside was, it was just like that in his eyes. Chapter 22. Did Xiao Shui dress like this for you before? Northern Suburbs. Meet you Chen Chen and Jiang Wenming, who have been waiting for a long time. Both of them knew Xiao Ruoran, Chen Chen's aunt next door. She was the one who went to school to call his parents when he got into trouble, and they saw each other often. Chen Chen asked, have you found a suitable location? The two men led the way, and Chen Chen drove the car into the temple fair. The huge and luxurious Land Rover attracted everyone's attention, which was also the effect Chen Chen wanted to achieve. After stopping the car, looking at the people coming and going, Chen Chen tore off a piece of white cloth from the back table and spread it on the wide ground in front of him. The vendors around were very curious about his behavior. To drive such a nice car, his family must be very well off. Why would he set up a stall here? When Chen Chen carried out box after box of books from the back, the other vendors immediately lost interest. It turned out that he was a literary young man from a wealthy family, who came out to show off his knowledge. They have seen many people like this, but most of them have bad business. People who have the leisure to visit temple fairs do so for fun, and most of the people there are ordinary people who would be interested in appreciating talent. The enthusiastic vendor at the next stall said, "Little brother, you should buy books like this in the city center, where there are many educated people. It's hard to sell books like this in the suburbs." Chen Chen chatted with him with a smile, without slowing down his movements. Xiao Ruoran, who was sitting in the passenger seat, leaned back in her seat and stared at Chen Chen, who was busy outside with complicated eyes. She originally wanted to help, but Chen Chen knew that she was afraid of the heat, so he didn't let her come down. The air conditioner is on in the car, so it's a little cooler. As for Yu Chenqian and Jiang Wenming, they naturally need their help and must be trained well. Even if I am not with them in the future, they will be able to stand on their own. After the books were arranged, Chen Chen asked Fatty to go out and buy some cut watermelons. It was placed on the stall, with a note saying "free taste" written on a vertical wooden board. It does have some effect. At least people who eat watermelon have to pretend to read the contents of the book, otherwise it would be embarrassing. Chen Chen glanced at Yu Chenqian, who was dressed up carefully. As a boss, one must learn to tap the strengths of employees. "Sister Yu, this dress highlights your figure very well." The fleshy thighs were tightly wrapped in white silk, the texture glowed milky white in the sun, the texture was perfect. The large V neckline is dazzling and bright. The remarkable powder makeup perfectly brings out the two-dimensional temperament. Such an advanced dress is Chen Chen's grand move this time. Although Yu Chenqian was very satisfied with her makeup, she didn't think it was Chen Chen's work. She said in a cold tone, "Did Xiao Shui dress like this for you before?" Even the sunglasses could not block the fiery tone in her words. Chen Chen's face darkened, and he could not get over it. What does it have to do with her? This is just my imagination. Yu Chenqian deliberately said in a coquettish voice, "Brother Chen, your thoughts are really perverted. You don't have to say the second half of the sentence." Chen Chen knocked on her forehead speechlessly. As more and more young people were walking on the road, Chen Chen picked up a few books and stuffed them into Yu Chenqian's arms. "Remember what I told you. Let's get started." She was so fierce and aggressive just now, but suddenly she became like a deflated ball, with her hair covering her eyes. "Can I not go?" "I can't do that." Chen Chen put his hands on her shoulders and looked at her with gentle eyes. "Sister Yu, be brave, come on." Staring at Yu Chenqian staggering back, Chen Chen stood with his hands behind his back. He had put a lot of effort into training her to become a qualified secretary. People like Yu Chenqian are the kind who are particularly generous with their friends but a little socially anxious with strangers. Because of this personality, many people wanted to do CPU to her. In order to prevent her from being bullied, Chen Chen kept her by his side and trained her for several years. The personal secretary of a bully president, a good subject, can be used to write a novel. Yu Chenqian kept encouraging herself in her heart and walked with her straight and round long legs to where the young people gathered. When the beauty arrived, everyone felt so happy that their eyes were dazed for a moment. In an era when smartphones and the anime were not popular, what was the difference between dressing like this and being a fairy descending from Earth? Yu Chenqian, who finally mustered up the courage to stand among the crowd, suddenly thought of something very important. Chen Chen didn't tell her how to sell it, but just asked her to use her own advantages, correct her attitude and lower her airs. She was a little confused at the moment, and her mood, which had finally calmed down, began to panic again. His nails scratched the novel in his arms. At this time, someone came up to me and said, "Beauty, are you a bookseller?" Yes, our company is having a promotion recently, and exquisite novels are only half price. This is the first single volume published on the internet, and comes with an exclusive beautiful picture." She took out the novel that was scented with fragrance from her arms. The exquisite two-dimensional pictures quickly attracted the attention of a group of young people. He has a rather immature face and it is obvious that he is a student. Rebirth 1999, the counterattack starts from saving the stunning school girl. Chapter 1, Cheating Father, Sick Mother, School-Age Brother, Broken Self. With such a title and such an opening, it is definitely a deadly blow in this increasingly conservative era. What's more, the content is a combination of many high-quality gimmick articles from later generations, and its quality has been tested by the market in later generations. Chen Chen has been lying at home these days just to write this short and medium-length gimmick novel. The people present craned their necks and looked at each other with fervent eyes, proving that this book was feasible. The younger students felt like they had discovered a new world, and suddenly felt that the fantasy novels they had watched before were not so interesting anymore. The slow pace is too tiring, and the male protagonist is bullied in the early stages. Look at this, a brilliant start and a great feeling all the way through. The titles are not all that lethal. Beautiful sister, how much is one copy? Half price promotion, 15 yuan a copy. Sister, this book is not finished yet. Do you have the complete set? Not yet, but it will be available in the bookstore in the future. You can leave your or your family's mobile phone number and I will register it for you. Then when you go to the bookstore to buy it, it will still be half price. As soon as the words fell, everyone shouted. Sister, I want one. My mother's cell phone number is 155. And me, I'll give you money, my mother's cell phone number is 166. Sister, look at me. I want to. Soon, the several books in her arms were all gone. After recording the phone numbers, she led everyone back to the stall. The crowd started buying up the single-volume books on the stall, and soon sold out 1/3 of them. There was an endless stream of pedestrians on the road, all of whom were attracted by Chen Chen's dress. They stopped to admire her and appreciate her books. Xiao Ruoran in the car was completely immersed in the world of the novel and could not hear any sound from outside. She even forgot that she would have to wear a wedding dress if she lost. From 10 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, all the books were sold out. The three people in the middle just ate some watermelon to fill their stomachs. The booming business made people forget about their hunger and about Xiao Ruoran in the car. Xiao Ruoran was so immersed in it that she forgot about them outside and her own rumbling stomach. The other vendors nearby were already numb. Are the books written by this rich genius so good? Several people came over and wanted to get some wholesale goods from Chen Chen, and they also wanted to sell them. However, Chen Chen said that he had already sold it short. It's not that he doesn't want to give it, but there is no way to manage these vendors. He has a lot of things not on track right now, so he tries to finish the important things first. While Chen Chen was cleaning up the garbage and white cloth on the ground, Xiao Ruoran also turned to the last page of the novel. Then she discovered that the climax was only halfway through and the book wasn't finished at all. It made her very angry. What a ridiculous thing. I took a deep breath. The author really has a lot of imagination and his writing is really awesome. It was not until he saw Chen Chen outside that his face changed drastically. This book was well written. Could he have really made 3,000? Anyway, if it were her, she would basically buy the book after seeing the title. I was worried about this when I got this book, but I was so engrossed in reading it that I forgot about it. She opened the car window and looked out. The ground was empty, having been cleaned up by Chen Chen. Seeing Chen Chen and Jiang Wenming both with smiles on their faces, my heartbeat suddenly accelerated and I felt like a disaster was about to happen. Chapter 23. You are my dear aunt. 2 chapters in 1. Because Chen Chen's home is in the North District, in order to make it convenient to take her home later, Chen Chen found a hot pot restaurant in the North District. The aroma of the butter base invaded their taste buds, and their stomachs growled after a day of hunger. The four of them stared at the bubbling bottom of the pot with their mouths watering, their throats rolling back and forth. Eating comes first, and between counting money and eating, several people decisively choose the latter. After eating voraciously, he started talking about selling books today. The fat man couldn't help but ask, "Brother Chen, how much money did you make today?" Chen Chen smiled and said, after deducting the cost, it should be a little over 3,000. The fat man and Chen Chen looked at each other and smiled, feeling a little excited. I can earn so much in one day by setting up a stall. If I sell it in front of the university, I will definitely make a fortune. Brother Chen, where do you get books like this from? We can get more next time. We'll talk about it later. The quality of this batch of goods is actually very poor. Apart from that beautiful picture, the overall quality of the paper of the book is very poor. His cooperation with Chuan City Publishing House this time was very hasty and reduced costs a lot, and the printing standard did not reach the regular level at all. Although the physical book industry of this era is not so standardized and formal, it also involves many aspects and various costs. If it is only sold on a small scale, many costs and regulations can actually be ignored, but this is obviously not the result he wants. Therefore, professional things must be done by professional people and companies. Upon hearing this, Chen Chen and Jiang Wenming were a little disappointed, but they soon became happy again. Chen Chen is really doing serious things and not messing around, so they don't have to worry about him. After dinner, Chen Chen drove Chen Chen and Fatty home. Then he slowly drove the silent Aunt Ran home. As soon as he stepped into their house, Xiao Ruoran started to act like a rogue and hid back in his own home in a flash. With a snap, the door closed, leaving Chen Chen in a daze. After reacting to what happened, Chen Chen curled his lips. He really couldn't afford to have such fun. When he got home, his mother had not come back yet, so he went to the balcony and pulled off the dried stockings. I knocked on Aunt Ran's door and shouted, "I'm here to bring you some clothes, open the door quickly." The door slammed. There is only the sound, but no one is seen. Chen Chen couldn't help but kick his fist. Xiao Ruoran, who was worried about disturbing other guests upstairs and downstairs, opened the door for him reluctantly. As soon as his 2 feet stepped in, Xiao Ruoran snatched the stockings from his hand, and said with an inexplicable emotion, "Auntie is sleepy, you go home first." After being rejected twice in a row, Chen Chen sat down on her bed. "Xiao Ruoran, can't you afford to play?" She remained silent, lying on the bed with her back to him. All the answers are self-evident. Chen Chen sighed, feeling a little tired. He casually threw his shoes aside and rolled onto the bed in his socks. He moved his body and pressed against Xiao Ruoran's back. Her delicate body trembled noticeably, then she slowly closed her eyes and remained silent. Chen Chen, with his forehead against her cheek, felt her rapid breathing and breathed hot air on her neck. "Xiao Ruoran, what if I want to beat you up?" The delicate body trembled again, but there was still silence. She was in the wrong in this matter and didn't know what to say. But when it came to actually wearing a wedding dress, she was really struggling inside and couldn't make up her mind for a while. The strong scent of his hormones continued to come to her nose, making her somewhat indulge in it. My rationality was washed away again and again, but I just couldn't make up my mind. Over the years, she has always denied some of her inner thoughts and always controlled her emotions. Once she puts on her wedding dress, there's no guarantee that she'll be able to control herself. She was so contradictory throughout. She could still convince herself before the bet, but she was completely confused after the bet. Forget it. There's no point in forcing you. Let's just pretend that we've never gambled against each other. Actually, I can understand that wearing a wedding dress is not a good thing. After all, women wear wedding dresses for the people they love to see. I was too abrupt. It's a pity that I didn't see Aunt Rant's most beautiful side. But it doesn't matter. I'll be able to see it when I attend your wedding. It's probably going to be too soon at your age. Hearing him say these nonsense, her body trembled even more violently and her whole face was buried in the quilt. Chen Chen loosened his arms around her, slowly stood up and left. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He was also very anxious. He shouted to stop, otherwise the situation would be ruined if he walked out of the door. The moment his palm touched the door handle, the expected voice finally rang out. "Return." "Okay." Chen Chen breathed a sigh of relief and quickly returned to the bed, putting his arms around her again. "Auntie Ran, you look so sleepy and your eyes are so red. How about we talk about it tomorrow?" He kindly helped her find an excuse. Xiao Ruoran's voice choked, "Then I really thank you. You are my dear aunt, and you should do so. Then you are so filial." Chen Chen's back was covered in cold sweat. He was indeed too filial. Seeing her murderous expression, he leaned back wisely, ready to leave the battlefield at any time. Xiao Ruoran held back his anger and took out a set of pajamas from the closet and threw them to him. "You stink, go take a shower." Chen Chen did not dare to delay and rushed into her shower room quickly. "Take off your clothes and apply whatever smells good on your body." After rinsing, he picked up the bath towel hanging next to him and started wiping himself. Bath towels smell better than those smeared stuff. Xiao Ruoran was sitting on the bed, rubbing the pillow in his arms back and forth. "I serve you every day, but you still bully me. You are such a bastard, such a jerk. You even said you were old, that you were going to get married, and that you wanted to attend your own wedding. How abominable. I'll beat you to death. A wedding dress is just a skirt, what's wrong with that? It doesn't say whether you can wear it during the day or at night." When Chen Chen came out, he saw the bed in a mess, with quilts, pillows, and sheets lying there in all directions. Xiao Ruoran had already changed into her pajamas. When she saw him come out, she walked into the shower room silently, Seeing the wet bath towel hanging there, she blushed and pulled it off and started to output again. After tidying up her messy bed sheets, he clamped the summer quilt between his legs and stared at the ceiling with a dull look. He ate meat in his previous life, so why is he willing to be a vegetarian in this life? The air conditioner was blowing cold air, and the soft big bed kept tempting him, but suddenly he didn't want to go home to sleep. My mother was on a business trip these days, so there was no need to say hello to her. He lay comfortably on the big bed. Xiao Ruoran came out after washing up and saw someone lying on the bed with a comfortable look on his face. He felt so angry that he couldn't suppress it. She climbed straight onto the bed and kicked him in the face with her feet. Chen Chen, who was completely unprepared, suffered a loss and was kicked in the face. Is he the one who suffers the loss? Definitely not. He grabbed her feet and bit them. This woman wouldn't even use perfume to wash her feet. Why do they smell so good? I felt a little overwhelmed after biting one spot, so I took another bite of the round and tender pink toes. It's soft and chewy, not at all harsh on the teeth. Xiao Ruoran, with blushing cheeks, kicked him in frustration. This brat didn't mind the dirt and bit everything. Open your mouth, it's dirty. Chen Chen was vague. I don't dislike you. I hate you, it's all saliva. Xiao Ruoran, who had finally pulled his foot free, hadn't yet breathed a sigh of relief when someone came close to him again. Xiao Chen, why do you always bully my feet? Chen Chen, who was pinching her feet with one hand, said shamelessly, it just bullied me, I will definitely take revenge. Xiao Ruoran actually believed his lame excuse and allowed him to bully her. He didn't realize at all that this boy's filial piety towards him had already deteriorated. After a long while, Xiao Ruoran said to Chen Chen, who was lying at her feet and still bullying her feet, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have acted like a rogue. Chen Chen's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he tried hard to restrain the corners of his mouth that were about to rise. Auntie Ran, what are you saying? There is no need for you and me to say this. I will only be sad for a while, but after tonight, I will still be filial to you. Xiao Ruoran lowered her eyes, and dots of pearly light began to linger in the corners of her eyes again. She took Chen Chen's hand, her eyes dodging. Xiao Chen, this matter must be kept secret, don't let Sister Rong know, otherwise I'm done. Chen Chen said maliciously, my mother knows what happened. Xiao Ruoran's eyes suddenly widened, and she tapped his forehead, her beautiful eyes trembling. What's wrong? Sister Rong and I are of the same generation, and I wear a wedding dress for a junior like you. Are you still letting your aunt behave like a human being? Chen Chen rested his head on her legs. Oh, auntie, we are just neighbors, it's nothing. Xiao Ruoran knocked him twice in frustration, don't talk nonsense. Although we are not related by blood, Sister Rong has always treated me as her own sister over the years. All the neighbors know it. People should live for themselves and not care about the world's opinions. Auntie, you don't care, but I do. Chen Chen rolled around on her legs, his feet landing on her lower abdomen, full of resentment. You traditional woman, I really want to beat you up. This made Xiao Ruoran laugh so hard that she pinched his feet and said, how dare you hit me, you little brat. Then Chen Chen performed the reverse Tian Gang for her, sat up and patted her soft cheeks on both sides. I dare not use too much force, but I have to have enough momentum. Xiao Ruoran's eyes were full of fire. Chen. Someone immediately started to act like a rogue. I have always listened to Aunt Ran since I was a child, but you told me to beat you. If the king orders me to die, I dare not disobey him. Xiao Ruoran chuckled at his nonsense. She pounced on him directly, venting all her anger of the day on him. Someone was beaten and screamed like a ghost. Have you arranged your time? Chen Chen pretended to be confused. What time? Xiao Ruoran buried her head in his arms and said in a timid voice, don't play dumb, it's time to watch the sea in your wedding dress. Let's save some money to buy you a nice wedding dress after some time. He stared at the moonlight on the curtains with a distant look. The moon outside the window was hazy, with only half of its shape visible. Xiao Ruoran's delicate body trembled, and the trembling became more and more violent. Her feet clenched the bed sheets tightly, as if she was trying hard to restrain something. Xiao Chen sold books in the hot weather to earn money to buy her a wedding dress. In order to avoid embarrassing her, Chen Chen reached out to turn off the light and made an excuse to hide in the bathroom. I put my ear against the door and could hear the sobbing outside. The word coward should be followed by crybaby. He hid in the bathroom for nearly half an hour before the sobbing outside stopped. Back on the bed, Xiao Ruoran dived into his arms and said, Xiao Chen, auntie has money, you can buy it yourself. What the hell are you buying? Which bride would pay for her wedding dress herself? If outsiders knew about this, they would think that Chen Chen couldn't afford it. He said dissatisfiedly, no, I have to buy the wedding dress. It's a matter of principle. Xiao Ruoran felt warm inside, and smiled foolishly as if she was in love. Then can I let auntie choose the style? Someone's mouth opened directly, and he ruffled her soft hair, no problem. There was an evening breeze outside, and the sound of glass being scratched was like a warning. Xiao Ruoran, who was buried in Chen Chen's arms, moved her ears, Xiao Chen, it's raining outside. Chen Chen pulled the quilt over them and squeezed her in. Rainy days are the best time to sleep in. Feeling the warmth that he hadn't felt in many years, Xiao Ruoran fell into memories. Xiao Chen, when you were little, Sister Rong was very busy and didn't have time to take care of you. You just like to stick to me and sleep with me every night. You were very timid at that time and couldn't sleep at the slightest disturbance. In thunderous and rainy weather like this, you will hang on me like a pendant. With hot breath coming from his chest, Chen Chen murmured, now you have become my pendant. Xiao Ruoran did not answer and buried his head even deeper. Everything that happened today seemed like a dream I had long ago. I wish I could live in the dream forever. Xiao Ruoran, I want to listen to a love song. Please sing one for me quickly. Stop making trouble, Tilda. What love songs are you listening to? How can an elder sing a love song to a younger person? Doesn't she have any dignity? This greedy boy is not satisfied with just being held by his aunt while sleeping, he also wants his aunt to sing love songs. What a nice dream. This boy must be lonely again and wants to make fun of her, but she is not motivated and doesn't dodge or evade. Auntie Tilda. Auntie Ran Tilda. Ruo Ran Tilda. Ran Tilda. Shut up. Xiao Ruoran covered his mouth with his claws and teeth. You outspoken brat, you dare to call me anything you want, you deserve a beating. I couldn't stand his wasting any more, and to prevent him from continuing to talk nonsense, I had no choice but to agree to his unreasonable demands. The night rain outside the window was getting heavier and heavier, tapping on the glass in the room. A slight chill came from the doors and windows that were not closed tightly. This street is too crowded. Too many people have secrets, Tilda. There is no rivalry in love, you are playing chess with yourself, Tilda. I haven't had time to write down your details yet, Tilda. Describe how I love you, Tilda. You left me smiling, Tilda. Outside the window, raindrops are shattering, the wind is blowing rapidly, inside the house, music is playing and singing is melodious. Xiao Ruoran expressed his suppressed emotions in the music. The corner of Chen Chen's mouth slowly approached her cheek. Auntie Ran, did you spray perfume? It smells a bit good. Immersed in memories, Xiao Ruoran stared blankly at the grey face in front of him and rubbed it with his fingertips. By the time she came to her senses, their breaths had already touched each other, light yet rapid. Her cheeks flushed and she said angrily, your mouth is almost touching my face. Wasn't it often like this when we were kids? Someone said shamelessly, beating around the bush. Xiao Ruoran pinched his waist and said shyly, you're all grown up now, you definitely can't do this. Don't you always treat me like a child? Give me a kiss. Chen Chen, you are so filial, he scolded himself in his heart. Chapter 24 I paid for all of these, so what should I account for? 2 chapters combined. After saying this, Chen Chen, who was ready to be beaten, waited for a long time but no critical hit came. Aunt Ran's delicate body in his arms was tense and her eyes in the darkness were filled with disbelief. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Xiao Ruoran, who was unable to suppress the heat in his body, gritted his teeth and said, you are so old, why do you want a kiss? Go to sleep quickly. It was already early in the morning, and she was not sleepy at all. Her little heart was beating like an electric motor. Chen Chen touched her cheek with the back of his hand, which was already completely red and warm. Stop messing around and go to sleep. It's so hot, don't hold me so tight. Why are you so clingy? Stay away from me. Don't bite my face. The next morning, Xiao Ruoran opened her eyes and stared at the face only a few centimeters away from her. She pursed her lips and kissed him on the cheek as if possessed by a ghost. Then he quickly got out of bed and ran into the bathroom. She was taking revenge on Chen Chen for biting her last night, and she had no other intentions. She is an old hand at deceiving herself. Chen Chen slept until noon and returned home in a daze, slipping on his slippers. There was a rustling sound coming from the bathroom, and the bathroom door was pushed open. Xiao Ruoran was sitting on a bench, rubbing the clothes in a porcelain basin. The socks, shorts, and shirt were all his. You got up so early. When she saw him for the first time, she remembered what she did in the morning. Her little face turned red and she lowered her head quickly. Her strange behavior and language made Chen Chen confused. It was almost 12 o'clock, was it still early? Even though I usually go to bed at 10 o'clock, she would still complain a lot, asking what's wrong with me today. After rubbing the last piece, she stood up, shook her hands, and pushed the porcelain basin with her feet. I've washed it for you, take it to the balcony to dry. She was worried that the washing machine didn't wash clothes clean enough, so she washed Chen Chen's clothes by hand. Many of her own clothes did not receive this treatment. She pretended to be calm as she walked past him. I'll go cook for you. After you finish drying the clothes, go wash up. I have something else to do in the afternoon. Chen Chen, who was still confused, obediently hung the clothes, washed up, and changed his clothes. After dinner, Chen Chen asked, Aunt Ran, what are you going to do this afternoon? He couldn't remember anything that needed him. Xiao Ruoran smoothed the hair on her forehead and pinched the sofa with her small hands. Don't you want to make money? Help me deliver the goods this afternoon. Dongcheng North District Freight Station. Xiao Ruoran took Chen Chen's hand and walked into a large warehouse with ease. He had no memory of this place and probably had never been here in his previous life. Looking at the pile of boxes, he was a little confused. Sister Rome, are the goods you are talking about from my mother's company? Xiao Ruoran liked to knead his hands very much, and explained while kneading, it is a business invested by Sister Rome, and it is also a batch of industries left by my parents. Aunt Ran's parents were among the first group of people who moved south during the reform and opening up period. They stood at the forefront of the times and, with their own long-term vision and excellent abilities, they achieved great success. When my mother started her business, she worked with my aunt and uncle and received a lot of help from them. Walking to the end of the warehouse, Xiao Ruoran asked someone to turn on the lights. The dark environment became bright. The warehouse here was big enough, at least more spacious than the company's underground garage. Chen Chen walked to a random place and opened a box. He saw a wide variety of shoes, all of which were foreign brands. He suddenly remembered one thing. In his previous life, the clothing products he sold through e-commerce were supplied by Aunt Ran. The purchase price was so cheap that it occupied a large market share during the price war at that time. Now it seems that this was the foundation left by Aunt Ran's parents. He walked to the other side and opened a few boxes. They were all foreign brands, high heels, skirts, jeans, black stockings. He was dazzled by what he saw and touched the fabric casually. He found it many times smoother than the stuff currently on the market. Xiao Chen, come here. Chen Chen, who was called over, looked at the large boxes in front of him and asked, what's in these? The staff member at the side smiled and said, good stuff. This aroused someone's curiosity. As soon as he put his hand on it, Xiao Ruoran knocked it away. She told the staff beside him, move these boxes of goods to my car. They didn't dare to delay and started working immediately. Xiao Ruoran only acts like a punched bag in front of Chen Chen, but in front of outsiders he is a very cold and domineering president. Chen Chen secretly glanced at Aunt Ran, who was pretending to be pretentious, and curled the corner of his mouth. If I didn't know your true face and IQ, I would have been fooled by you. Xiao Ruoran, who was acting like a domineering CEO, pointed to the warehouse in front of him and said, see if there's anything you like, just move it. If you think something is good to sell, you can move it out and sell it. Flattered, Chen Chen was stunned for a moment. Are the things here not in order? Xiao Ruoran looked at him proudly. I bought all of them with my own money, why should I settle accounts with them? Chen Chen's eyes suddenly widened and he took several breaths of cold air. Listen, what do people say? She bought all of them. Is the gold content a bit too much? He suddenly hugged Aunt Ran's arm and rubbed his face against her arm. Aunt, food, I'm hungry. Xiao Ruoran was caught off guard by this death. He frowned and asked, didn't you have enough for lunch? Eat enough at noon, and you have to eat for the rest of your life. Xiao Ruoran frowned even deeper. Aunt, I don't want to work hard anymore. Let me live a life of luxury. Damn it, work hard, What the hell is work hard for? What kind of work is this? This warehouse alone is probably worth tens of millions. When he just entered the door, he saw dozens of brand new German-made cars parked on the west side of the warehouse, each of which cost hundreds of thousands. Damn, there's a reason why he was worth hundreds of billions in his previous life. With the silent support of this 1.7-meter tall aunt with a queen-like face, black stockings, a two-dimensional figure, who can do splits, sing and dance, and is rich and wealthy, it would be strange if he didn't succeed. Upon hearing his cowardly words, Xiao Ruoran's expression suddenly changed. She pulled his cheek unhappily and said, "How can you live off your aunt for the rest of your life? You have to get married and have children in the future. If you don't work hard, others will look down on you." Chen Chen said shamelessly, "If you transferred this warehouse to me, I can eat for the rest of my life. I look like I'm just going to live off you." Xiao Ruoran put the back of his hand on his forehead, raised his head slightly, and regretted bringing this boy here. If this kid doesn't work hard, who will inherit the business that Sister Rong has worked hard for half her life? Does she really have to help manage it herself? But she has never paid much attention to business matters, otherwise her parents would not have sold so many properties. Compared to herself, Sister Rong must prefer her son to take over the business she left behind and develop it further. Xiao Chen, you can't think like that. Sister Rong's company will still need you in the future. Just find a professional manager to help manage it, or sell the shares. Xiao Ruoran couldn't hold it anymore. She lifted his ear with her jade hand and said angrily, "You bastard, you can say such words, you want to die. This company is Sister Rong's life's work. She has invested half her life in it. I don't care which path you take in the future, you have to take over the company. At worst, I can help you manage it." Chen Chen, whose ears hurt, stood on tiptoe to reduce the pain as much as possible. Wrong, wrong. After letting go of his hand, she rubbed it with concern. She was really angry just now, so she hit him a little too hard. "Xiao Chen, Sister Rong has been working hard for the company over the years. You can't think of selling your shares. There are some things I don't want to tell you so early, but I have to say something today. You may not know the reason why Sister Rong started her business. Let me tell you, she did it to prove to her parents that her decision was right. When Sister Rong got pregnant with you, it was completely an accident. No one in the family wanted her to give birth to their child. She couldn't bear to abort the baby, so she ran away secretly to Shenzhen and gave birth to you." Xiao Ruoran went forward and hugged him. "Auntie has told you so much, can you understand a little bit?" Now she didn't expect Chen Chen to fully understand, but at least he could change some of his ideas. At least he had to abandon the idea of selling shares. Chen Chen's body shook unconsciously as his gaze fell on a certain place in the warehouse. He knew all the inside stories that Aunt Ran had mentioned. The more rebellious you are when you are young, the greater the regret you will feel when you grow up. When he learned about these things in his previous life, he also made corresponding counterattacks. Many of my grandparents' businesses were attacked and acquired, but they never fought back once. The world is not black and white, nor is it right or wrong. My mother is stubborn. She doesn't want to bow her head or be ordered around. She has done nothing wrong. From a parent's perspective, it is understandable that her grandparents wanted her to abort this burden. My mother can't forget the hard days when she had to work hard in Shenzhen with her hungry mother, so she has always had a grudge in her heart. My grandparents have contacted my mother over the years, but she has always refused. Chen Chen forced himself to smile. "Don't worry, I was just joking, the company's shares will not be sold." Not only will he not sell the company, he will also let his mother continue to expand the company and let his mother stand in front of all the family members with her head held high. Xiao Ruoran breathed a sigh of relief, and her tense body relaxed. "You little bastard, my heart is not in good condition, don't scare me with such jokes." Chen Chen lifted her smooth chin and said with a smile, "Sometimes you call me a dog, sometimes you call me a brat, but my aunt's little mouth is really sweet. You bastard, you deserve a beating." Chen Chen, who was sitting in the passenger seat, kept looking at the trunk. "What's in the trunk? It's so mysterious." He asked Aunt Ran all the way, but didn't get any useful information. "I hope she can keep her mouth shut. You'll know when you get there." Chen Chen was so angry about her indifferent attitude that his teeth itched. "Xiao Ruoran, I will beat you up sooner or later, just wait for it." We drove all the way south and arrived at the largest commercial district in the southern part of Dongcheng district. The largest shopping malls and commercial streets in the South District are all here. Chen Chen got out of the car to move the box. It was quite heavy. If he was not in good physical condition, he might not be able to move it. What on earth is in there? It's packed in a wooden box. A cardboard box would be much better. I'd have money to burn. Xiao Chen, slow down and don't fall. Really, I didn't ask you to move it. Xiao Ruoran closed the car door and came over to help him worriedly. Why would someone with such weak arms and legs take on such a job? If Chen Chen knew what she was thinking, she would at least perform a one-legged stand for her to show off her strength. Xiao Ruoran led Chen Chen to a clothing store, where they met a plump middle-aged woman. With every step, she sways her body and spreads her clothes in all colors. Boss Xiao, I have been looking forward to seeing you finally come. Xiao Ruoran extended his hand politely. The supplier was out of stock, so it was a few days late. The proprietress smiled indifferently and took them into a room inside the store. Chen Chen put the box on the ground and listened to their conversation. The box should be filled with clothes. Aunt Ran is really something. It's just clothes. What else there to not say? Even if it's black stockings, it's no big deal. What a conservative woman. The two chatted about business matters with a smile for a while, and then got down to business and started talking about the batch of goods. The proprietress spoke first. Boss Xiao, the last batch of goods sold very well. This time I plan to purchase 10,000 pieces. 10,000 pieces. Such a big appetite. Chen Chen was a little surprised. How could such a small store buy 10,000 pieces at one time? Xiao Ruoran crossed her legs, her sparkling crystal high heels dangling in the air, her ankles wrapped in translucent high-shine black stockings, attracting someone's attention. It's not his fault. He is too young and it is inevitable that he gets angry. 10,000 pieces is no problem, but I only brought a portion of them. You can take a look first. Hearing this, Chen Chen couldn't wait to open the box. The scene in front of him was indeed a bit shocking. He suddenly understood why Aunt Ran didn't let him open it in advance. It was quite shocking. It is colorful and has various styles, which would be considered cutting-edge designs in later generations. Xiao Ruoran kept her head down, not daring to look up, for fear that someone would notice her blushing cheeks. Dongcheng is not like those economically developed frontier cities like Shanghai, and many people's food, clothing, housing and transportation are still mainly based on domestic products. Including the industry development here, it is also relatively conservative. Therefore, things like black stockings, distinctive xiong, miniskirts, etc. are still in their infancy in Dongcheng. What Xiao Ruoran brought at this moment was a high-quality specialty product, which was produced by OEM in coastal areas. Its main distribution cities are super-large cities such as Shanghai, Kyoto, and Shenzhen. In a place like Dongcheng, there must be many styles of wunxiong, but there are really no special ones. To put it bluntly, how many store owners here have access to those special toys? Those are things that couples in later generations play with at home. I have to say that in some aspects, Aunt Ran has a unique vision. It makes full use of girls' curiosity and love of beauty. There are basically a lot of couples shopping and playing in this kind of area every day, and when they see this thing, they will definitely want to try it. Chen Chen sighed that before the internet became popular, information gap was still very attractive. As long as you can get a wave of dividends, you can earn enough money to spend for a lifetime.